The mighty Emily found the rumors to be ridiculous and only convincing for kids. But she changed her mind totally after that night. It was 2 a.m., and Emily was, as usual, braiding her red hair and wearing a blue and white striped dress to get ready for her work shift. She worked the night shift, when the streets were mostly empty and barely anyone came to a fast food restaurant. Since she worked here, her friends kept asking her to take Wendy's challenge.
It's almost 3 o'clock, my girl,
Sophia said excitedly.
Leave me alone. I'm still working,
Emily said via Skype.
but there's nobody there. Maybe you're scared.
Sophia's voice sounded challenging.
You're a yellow belly.
Ben laughed.
Oh, right. I haven't shown you guys the mannequin over there, have I?
Emily said. That old mannequin in the warehouse attracted Emily in the first place. People said that strange phenomena had occurred ever since it came. There were crying sobs in the midnight hour, and then a giggle at 3 a.m.
The mannequin is haunted. Do you see anything strange?
Ben asked eagerly.
Strange?
Emily hesitated, then looked around as though she were searching for something.
Hey, Em, your internet is unstable.
Sophia replied. Emily's screen flickered, then made the grunge sound so loudly that she couldn't hear her friends.
Oh, hey, we can't hear you.
Sophia said worriedly.
I stay. Hi.
Emily's side lost signal again, and then it disconnected.
Em, are you okay?
Hello, girl? What the heck?
Both Ben and Sophia shouted at the same time. Emily bursted out laughing. That mannequin looked so creepy. Its whole body was white, and its eyes were wide open. It wore a crumpled and tattered Wendy's uniform. The scariest thing was that this mannequin could blink, and the limbs could also be adjusted. It was no different from a real person.
Can't believe you two big kids still think that stupid creepypasta is true. Morons.
Emily didn't give up mocking her friends.
Hey, creepypastas are true, okay?
Emily laughed at Ben's stupid seriousness.
Oh, yeah? Okay. It's 3 a.m. now. Wendy? Wendy? Wendy?
Emily finally called out Wendy's name 3 times to prove to Ben that all rumors were fake.
See? Nothing happened.
She said, and got back to the counter. Their conversation was interrupted when a customer entered the store. Emily quickly got to the door.
Did you see it?
Ben asked Sophia.
Huh? Cut the crap, Em. It's not fun at all.
Sophia guessed it was Emily's silly prank.
Just someone asking for directions.
Emily updated.
Where the hell have you been?
Ben panicked.
The outdoors, of course. What's wrong?
Emily replied while she headed to the kitchen.
Don't go in there!
Sophia shouted.
What's wrong?
There was a Wendy in there.
Ben stammered nervously.
Come on. You should stop your silly things.
Emily wanted to prove that there was nothing there, so she walked into the kitchen.
No one is here. See?
Em, it's right behind you.
Sophia shakily pointed at the screen. Emily was thrown against the wall. Her whole body hurt to death. The mannequin Wendy walked towards her with heavy steps.
Run, Em! Get out of there!
Emily wanted to run away, but she couldn't move. Wendy grabbed her collar and lifted her up. Emily could only struggle weakly. Its mouth was still gaping devilishly. Fortunately, Emily caught the rolling pin. She smashed it like crazy in the face of the mannequin, so it dropped her. Before Emily could regain her composure, the call of two friends urged her on. When the Wendy mannequin was about to catch her, Emily got up and ran away. She rushed out of the store, and when she turned her head to see what just happened, the Wendy mannequin was still moving slowly in front of the store, its mouth grinning, its crazy eyes still staring at her. Ever since that terrifying encounter, Emily was scared to death about the rumors. She tried to explain to all the employees in the store, but no one believed her.
Stop the nonsense. Omegle, but I can't skip anyone challenge? Sounds hot.
A YouTube recommendation made me so curious about this new trend on Omegle. After a few seconds of hesitating, okay, maybe I should give it a try. The rule of the game was very simple. In any random chance, I can't be the one who presses the skip button.
Okay, let's get started.
I clicked video. The conversations were boring, but I couldn't skip them. Hell yeah. No matter how weird the stranger was, I couldn't skip.
If you don't want to talk, you can skip me.
I told him after we connected for 1 minute. Faster than I expected. That guy raised his middle finger, then quit right away.
What the hell?
I frowned at his rude attitude. The next one, well, she was really a pretty girl.
Hi.
She started first.
Hi.
I replied with a gentle smile. We just talked about some trends on social media recently. Good news. We seemed to get along quite well. The conversation was fun, and there was no sign of wanting to skip each other.
Hey, do you want to play a game?
I suggested playing Truth or Dare, and she said yes. On her first turn, she hit the truth. I was excitedly waiting for a secret to be revealed.
Okay. A fact about me. I killed someone.
What?
I was surprised.
Yes, I killed a person.
She confirmed. And even though I told her to stop, she kept recounting every detail of the murder. I couldn't skip first, and Omegle didn't have a mute mode, so all I could do was listen politely. She said that she met the victim on the street. Then she followed her home and strangled her to death. But it didn't end there. She also chopped up the body, removed the organs, and threw them away.
It'll take the police weeks or even months to find the body.
She laughed like a psycho. My God, I'd never seen such a freaky girl. Her face turned cold when she talked about those bloody crimes.
Hey, it's just a joke, isn't it?
I had to chill down my spine but still tried to keep my voice calm. The Omegle challenge wasn't over yet, and I didn't want to fail like this.
Joke? Do I look like joking?
That was enough. I couldn't stand this creep. I clicked on the skip button.
Well, looks like I've just lost this challenge,
I said to the camera and then stopped recording. After that, I did some editing to the recording, then posted on my YouTube channel with the title, Omegle, but I can't skip anyone. The video included the weird conversation with that insane girl. After uploading, I went to bed and surfed TikTok for a while before falling asleep. A phone call woke me up at night. It was my friend Roger, and he sounded very serious.
Check your YouTube channel right now.
I quickly opened my phone to see what happened. OMG! I was surprised to see that my Omegle video had reached 500,000 views in just a few hours of posting. It's unbelievable, I told Roger.
Dude, read the comments.
Roger replied. I was completely shocked when I scrolled down to the comments section below. The girl in the last video is dead. Many comments told me that the girl I talked to on Omegle was dead. Police discovered that she was dismembered and her body parts were thrown everywhere, exactly like what she described to me in the video before. One comment criticized me that I had no shame in making a joke about death. But that wasn't a joke. I did talk to that girl. She probably is a ghost. A comment popped up. I was so confused. I didn't realize what was really going on. Everything was getting worse. I locked the comments section. I don't know, Roger. I swear, I talked to her for real. I screamed on the phone.
So you actually talked to a ghost?
I don't know. She was so real. It couldn't be fake. I replied to Roger while scrolling through the article about her case. That girl was indeed dead, and her body was found 2 days ago. This was nonsense. Although I confirmed that I did not fake the video, they didn't believe me. After that, because there were so many conflicting opinions, I had to delete the video. A few days later, the police came to find me. I was extremely scared at the time, but I honestly reported and handed over the video of the conversation as evidence to the police. Finally, the mystery was solved. It turns out that the girl on Omegle was actually killed. But the murderer, after killing her, used a software called Deepfake to pretend to be that girl and used it to spread around about his exploits. Fortunately, it was so good to see my bros again after not seeing each other for a long time. So I drank a little too much. Even so, I decided to drive home. My house was 15 miles from here. On my way home, I had to pass a large field surrounded by no houses or buildings. But I was used to it after thousands of times driving past there at night, so it was okay. While I was driving, I thought about the video my friend just showed me at the party. What if I bumped into those things? I looked at the dash cam. Nonsense. If those tried to scare me, I would beat the shit out of them. Oh, shoot! I was startled and turned the steering wheel so fast that my van almost hit the tree trunk on the sidewalk. The engine started to smoke, which made me worry. I got out of the car to check it. Well, the damage was minor, but I was worried about the smoking engine. God damn it! If whatever or whoever did this to my vehicle were here, I would beat them up. You better hide well, prick! I got back to the van to check the dash cam, but couldn't see that person no matter how many times I replayed the recording. Gosh! Maybe I drank too much alcohol. I backed my van onto the road to head home. But just as I started the engine, there was a person standing in the corner 10 feet from me. That was the thing that caused the damage to my vehicle. There you are. I immediately ran out of the car to get him. You better not run! Not until I got close did I realize it was a woman. She was wearing a dirty white dress. She was bending down as though she were looking for something. Her long hair covered her whole face. Hey! I screamed so loud my ears went deaf. Never in my life did I see such a horrible face. My brain was totally paralyzed. I'd just met a real ghost. I ran as fast as I could to the car and tried to rush out of there. Oh, shoot! That woman, no, that thing started to move, and it headed towards me. I shakingly inserted the car key. Damn it! Finally, the car worked. I threw the car into reverse and stepped on the gas, but it kept moving forward instead. I could feel my car had just run over something, but no time to care anymore. I tried to get off of that street. What the heck just happened? I sat behind the wheel shaking, then looked at the rearview mirror. That thing was still there staring at me leaving. But when I turned around, it disappeared. How come? I stopped the car to calm myself and checked the dash cam once more to find nothing useful.
Or that was all my imagination? Hallucination?
Maybe. Suddenly, there was a cry from somewhere, which startled me and then vanished when I tried to locate the direction. Where did the cry come from in the middle of the night? There came that thing again. I felt my whole body frozen when it turned up. It stood there with a stick, its head moving slowly from left to right and then back and forth. What the? I screamed, "Back off!" while trying to turn back. I said, "Back off!" The creepy creature moved towards me, and then it started to speed up, its head shaking like that of a doll. I was so scared, I pushed the gas and my van hit the sidewalk. Maybe I hit something before I fainted. The next morning, I was in the town hospital. They found my van in the middle of the field and told me that maybe I was so drunk that I hit a tree that night. I tried to recall my memory. That ghost or whatever it was that real?
A dead woman's body was found in the middle of the field.
They found her.
The weather was terrible yesterday.
Yeah.
Since there was a construction site near Dunkin' Donuts, we lost a lot of loyal customers. It meant less work for John and me. I had nothing to complain about my job until one day. We were about to close the stall when a guest walked in. It was so hot outside, but he still wore a hoodie and his hair covered most of his face. So weird.
Welcome to Dunkin' Donuts.
The guest walked in, but the way he walked was abnormal. He walked along the wall to a table in the corner. It was like his back was glued to it.
Who's that freak?
John said as he didn't welcome this customer. I, on the opposite, thought this was just a rueful man, so I brought him the menu. As I came closer, I found this man was not as old as I thought.
2 vegan chocolate rainbow and 1 strawberry red, please.
The thing was, whatever he did, he fixed his head and back in one position, not to move an inch, like a pre-programmed robot. Then I was told that his name was Edward and he lived nearby. Perhaps because of his timid personality, he had never entered a store or restaurant. The more I got to know him, the more I found out that he and I had a lot in common. But John didn't like this guy at all.
Freak.
Many times, John deliberately spoke loudly for Edward to hear those words. One night, John had to serve Edward.
What did you say?
Suddenly, I heard him shout, then rushed to the guest like a wild animal. Edward was panicking and shaking his head. He didn't know what to do.
Hey, stop it!
I hurriedly approached.
He called me bastard.
John said in anger. But that sounds strange. Edward was one of the most polite people I had ever met. Seeing John's aggressive actions, Edward quickly left without saying any words.
Why do you keep protecting him?
Since that incident, John no longer disparaged Edward, but still expressed his displeasure. He once asked me,
Aren't you curious why that guy always walks like that?
Frankly, I was really curious but too shy to ask. So John told me his plan to know about the secret. That night, Edward came to Dunkin' Donuts as usual, and he even lent me a book. Before he sat down, I said,
I got off work early today. Would you wait for me a little bit and walk with me home?
Edward seemed so surprised after my information that he dropped the book on the ground. I quickly bent over to help him pick up the book, and I heard him say,
You stupid bimbo.
I looked at Edward in surprise, and he hurriedly waved his hand and said,
No, I didn't mean it.
But right on the spot, a slap made me fall to the ground. John jumped out of nowhere and punched Edward in the face. While John lifted me up, I heard Edward scream like crazy. He frantically tried to cover his head with his hands and stepped back against the wall. John violently grabbed Edward and yelled at his face.
Stop it, you freak! What do you want?
No! I didn't mean it! Please!
Edward was about to cry.
You'd better...
Before John finished his words, his hands were grabbed and squeezed by Edward. I even heard the sound of bones cracking. Then John was thrown aside. He rolled on the ground in pain with his arm disfigured. I heard Edward spew out a dozen curses, but his mouth didn't move. For a moment, I saw Edward's back turned. Behind his head, a wrinkled face, cruel and monstrously ugly.
You rat!
That creature growled and walked toward me. Edward's tall body was now strangely contorted. Just as the monster was about to catch me, I resisted fiercely. I slammed the thick book into his face and made it fall to the ground with a high-pitched hiss. At that moment, I heard Edward's voice.
Riley! Run!
I was so scared and ran out of the restaurant. When the police arrived, Edward was no longer there, and John was taken to the emergency room immediately. I later found out that Edward had suffered from a rare parasitic twin. That was why he had a strange creature behind his head. I quit the job at Dunkin' Donuts after that. Even though my life has returned to normal, I still think about Edward from time to time. I wonder where he is and what he's doing. I hope he can get rid of that monster to live a free life just as I am.
He was so excited to see the gloomy woods ahead.
If you get lost, just follow the rope. It'll show you the way out.
The tour guide said when the car stopped at the foot of the mountain.
It's very beautiful and deadly.
He tried to get as much footage as he could before it got dark.
So there's no one here, just us.
Ben panned the camera around the woods. The 100-year-old soaring tree trunk surprised and attracted Ben. Well, it was not as scary as people said. He kept following the small path until he came across a tree with a piece of paper on it. It was a missing person poster, but it wasn't the only one. Dozens of these posters were pinned on every tree around. The number was no less than 10.
Oh my God, they're all missing.
Ben moved the camera closer to the posters. Skimming through the information, he realized that the victims all went missing on the 13th day of the month.
All these people came from different places, but they all disappeared on the 13th.
Ben turned impatient. Were these pieces of paper real, or were they just some practical jokes? If the information was true, something terrible must have happened. Then who was the one to post these papers? If they were fake, then who would make this terrifying prank? Could it be some kind of monstrous ritual?
Guys, what do you think? I think this might be some kind of ritual. Oh, shoot!
He almost cried when he noticed a figure sitting on the logs. Suddenly, the thing turned around to look at him. Its shining eyes startled him. Scared, Ben immediately took the camera and ran away. And apparently, the creature was chasing him. He kept running and running without looking back. Even when he slipped, he didn't quit running. When he reached the empty lot, he stopped, held his breath. Now he barely heard any sound of that thing.
Guys, I thought it was a bear or something.
Ben decided to spend the night on this vacant field. He set up a small tent and gathered dry wood to build a fire. The light calmed him down a bit. Tired as he was, he didn't intend to take a nap in case that bear would come back and attack him. To combat the body slump, Ben took out his camera and looked at the photos. After a while, he fell asleep. When he woke up, it was almost morning. Ben packed up his things and got up to find his way back. However, the path led him back to the empty ground where he had camped last night. Strange. He looked around and kept walking, and he was back in the same place again.
Impossible!
Ben decided to carve a mark on every tree he passed. But whatever he did, it still led him to that same place.
Damn it!
Ben cursed angrily, then turned in another direction. He didn't remember the guide's instructions.
Follow the rope. It will take you out of the forest.
Exhausted, Ben wandered hopelessly through the woods.
Is anybody there? Help me! Please!
But the echo was only his own scream. Ben tried to locate the direction without paying attention to the ground.
Ah!
He stepped on a bear trap. His left foot clamped like it was crushed under the sharp, serrated teeth. Ben painfully tried to get his foot out of the trap, but however hard he tried, more blood flowed out, and he could feel the pain devouring his brain.
Help! Help!
He could only scream out for help, but in the middle of the pine barrens, no one could hear his plea. Just as he was about to faint, he heard footsteps behind him. He was overjoyed, thinking he could be saved.
Please! Help me!
He almost broke down, but the man didn't make a peep, just walked towards him, instead of helping Ben remove the trap. At this point, Ben noticed his brown fur coat, which was very similar to the fur on the monster he'd seen last night. But it was too late. The man raised the axe.
Why me?
When Ben was closing on his death, he realized that that day was the 13th.
No! No! No!
The disappearance of the male YouTuber vlogger Benjamin, or Ben, is receiving enormous attention. There are a lot of rumors surrounding the tragic incident. Itself in creating a fun, family-friendly environment. Still, every job has its horror stories, and I'm here to bring you one of those about Hooters, about what's behind those pretty faces and hot bodies. Grace was a good friend of mine. We first met at a book club and had hung out since then. She was also a Hooters girl. She was like Marilyn Monroe with the face of an angel. Anyways, that day, Grace asked me to pick her up after work because her car broke down. That was my first visit to Hooters.
Janet, come here. Don't be shy.
Grace told me over the phone.
It's okay. I'll wait here.
Come on, it's going to be a long wait.
Honestly, I couldn't refuse her anymore. I stepped into the restaurant and I was surprised. I thought this was full of male guests, but it turned out they were of all ages and genders, and all the waitresses were so hospitable and nice, and they were so beautiful. One of them took me to the table to wait for Grace, who was now busy taking orders.
Hey, cutie, wanna hang out for a night?
That drunk man over there said to Grace. She seemed annoyed, but still smiled.
When his hand moved down to her waist, she grabbed it and pushed it away.
Damn!
He gave a smack on Grace's cheek. Ah! Hey! I ran over and shoved him.
You bastard!
That man was about to fight back, but a few guests got to stop him. Are you okay?
I went to help Grace, but she pushed my hand away. Her cheek was still red.
Sorry, my friend is new here.
It's none of your business. Grace turned back to the man, whispered to him, and winked.
Okay, baby.
The man licked his lips, then followed her.
Grace, stop it! He was trying to harass.
I stopped Grace on the way.
Just stay out of this.
Grace gritted her teeth, then turned to smile at the man and went inside the staff room. Something was wrong. It had been an hour since they went into the room. What if my friend was harmed? I couldn't stay here like this. I must go look for her. While the other girls were busy, I snuck inside. The door wasn't locked, so I went in. It was so quiet here.
Where can she be?
I muttered as I walked around the room. There was nobody there. I looked around and was startled. Laughter seemed to come from behind the wall. I touched the wooden wall. Maybe there was something inside this painting. Suddenly, the wall cracked open. There was a secret door. I went in before it closed. The hallway was quite dark and even quieter than the room. After going through a few turns, I saw an old door without a room or number.
Maybe they are here.
I pushed the door and went in. Although the light was weak, I could still see things quite clearly, including those I shouldn't have seen.
On the floor, there was a man lying. His whole body was white and pale. His eyes rolled back as if he had been drained of blood. Standing around him were 4 or 5 girls, including Grace. They were...
Janet, didn't I tell you to wait?
Scared and shocked, my limbs stiffened. I couldn't say a word. As Grace moved closer to me, my heart was about to explode. I used all of my strength to run away. Fortunately, the secret door hadn't closed yet. When I stepped out of that room, everyone looked at me. I didn't know what to say or explain because I was so scared and panicked that I ran out and drove away without daring to look back.
I called the police and was horrified to learn that many more bodies had been discovered in that room. But those Hooter girls, including my book club friend Grace, had disappeared. Although I have moved to another city, the experience at Hooters still haunts me. Sometimes when I'm driving past a Hooters
horror story that haunts me until today. 10 years ago, when I was a 17-year-old girl, my mom asked me to babysit the neighbor's kid because they had to go to a party. Well, of course, I couldn't say no to her. However, the kid that I was supposed to babysit was 16 years old. His name was Tyler. He suffered from an intellectual disability, and people said that his mind was like a 5-year-old.
Hi.
I tried to be friendly, but Tyler gave me a really frightened glance. I mean, really frightened.
Goodbye and enjoy the party, Mr. and Mrs. Wilson.
I waved my hand as I closed the door. There were only me and Tyler in the house now.
So, I'm Tammy. Your name is Tyler, isn't it?
But Tyler didn't care at all. He only focused on finishing his painting stuff.
Tammy, could you please turn off the TV?
Okay. What are you painting?
I was curious. Tyler still didn't answer.
Can I join too?
Tyler nodded his head instead of saying a word. So we were both coloring and painting our own works of art.
Are you hungry?
I asked. Tyler nodded while painting attentively.
I'll make you something. What would you like to eat?
Up to you.
Tyler mumbled. So I went to the kitchen and prepared some sandwiches which were Tyler's favorite. When I came back, Tyler was no longer painting his picture. He was sitting there and mumbling.
Go out? I can't. Mommy won't let me. Can I? Where are you? Really? My babysitter?
Tyler?
I was a bit freaked out, though. After hearing my voice, he stopped mumbling.
Here, your sandwiches.
Tyler ran to the kitchen before touching the food. I guessed he was getting his favorite orange juice. At that moment, I had a closer look at the picture on the table. I guessed it was Tyler in the picture, but there were 2 of them in the same clothes. One looked normal with a smile, and the other, gosh, he had two scary dark eye sockets that gave me goosebumps. I ran quickly to the kitchen. Tyler was standing still, and there was broken glass pieces on the floor.
Don't move, Tyler!
I rushed to clean the mess. Meanwhile, Tyler was still standing emotionlessly, like he was a mannequin.
Tyler! Tyler!
I shook his shoulders in panic. I didn't scold or blame Tyler for breaking the glass, as I thought it was a harmless mistake. However, Tyler seemed a little bit different, like he wasn't himself anymore.
Tammy, TV remote!
He suddenly turned to me. That was the first time he looked me straight in the eyes, and I could feel the cold shiver running down my spine.
Sure.
There was news about a serial murder on TV. It was Tyler who was giggling at the news.
Tyler, you okay?
I was a bit freaked out now.
Yeah. Yeah.
He replied without even looking at me.
Should I change to a cartoon channel?
I reached out to get the remote. He quickly gripped my wrist.
If you touch it, I'ma kill you.
He said, cold-blooded. I quickly pulled my hand back. There was something strange and scary about him. Not only did he watch the murder news calmly, but he also ate a lot of snacks, which I was told was what he hated the most.
Tammy, bring me milk. Milk. Milk!
Okay.
I went to the kitchen to get the bottle of milk. While I was pouring the milk into the glass, something just popped up in my mind.
Tyler, you're lactose intolerant, aren't you?
My body was frozen when I saw Tyler standing in the middle of the room.
She knew.
No! Don't hurt her!
Shut up! You got to kill her.
Tyler!
Tyler turned around, staring at me with his dark eye sockets. In his hand was a sharp knife.
Tyler, where did you get that?
I stepped back. Tyler didn't hear my voice anymore.
Tyler, drop the knife down.
I tried to keep calm.
No! No! You have to die!
That voice wasn't Tyler's anymore. And before he rushed over with the knife, I ran quickly outside and locked the door. I tried to call Mr. and Mrs. Wilson in a panic, realizing how frightened I was. They immediately left the party and called 911. When Tyler's parents came home with the police, Tyler was back to normal. No one believed me, no matter how many times I tried to explain. Even though 10 years have passed now, I still couldn't forget what happened that day. The day Tyler, the neighbor kid that I babysat, was replaced by his evil and cruel personality. The Game of Chance event at the newly opened Starbucks store downtown. Although Elena and I arrived very early, the area in front of the store was already packed with many people. Everyone wanted to be the lucky owner of the prize, which was a limited edition cup. While waiting for the host, Elena and I each ordered a cup of coffee. It was good as always. After a while, the event started.
Dear customers,
Now it's time for me to draw the name of the luckiest and only guest to own this most beautiful cup. Who will be the lucky one?
That cup will belong to me.
Looking at the cup from afar, I silently wished that my name would be called. If I didn't win it, I thought I would negotiate and buy it back anyway.
And today's lucky customer is a guest named Elena. Elena! Please step onto the stage to receive this special cup.
Elena jumped for joy. I didn't know why, but while smiling at her, I was also a bit uncomfortable. On the way back, I asked to hold the cup for a second, but what she said got me so mad.
I'll never give it to you, Jade. That would also transfer my luck to you, and I got none left.
I went crazy and told myself that I would do anything to get that cup. At this moment, a truck came from afar. Elena was so happy about the limited edition cup that she didn't even notice. I was about to push Elena away, but in a flash of a moment, I thought about the cup and her arrogance, and so I just glared at her. The car crash sounded right next to my ears. Elena was now under the wheel of a truck. The Starbucks cup rolled out and stopped at my feet. I picked it up.
This has to be mine.
I turned to Elena and then ran off. The ambulance arrived shortly thereafter, but Elena was no longer breathing. After Elena's death, the entire Starbucks cup collection belonged to me.
Elena, if only you hadn't said those words, you wouldn't have taken that.
After moving to a new place and getting rid of Elena, I felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. But things didn't last long. That night in my sleep, I heard Elena's voice. I woke up with sweat on my forehead in the dark room alone.
Maybe it was just a nightmare.
I thought to myself and tried to get back to sleep. During the following days, the same nightmare kept coming. I just closed my eyes and Elena's image appeared. After a few days of insomnia, my eyes were dark. I had to keep taking sleeping pills to get a full night's sleep, but nothing changed. That night when I fell asleep after taking some medicine, the image of Elena appeared outside the door.
Chicky, you tried to push me at all of those cups. Give me back.
I tried to sit up but couldn't move. I struggled in despair. Elena squeezed my throat tighter. Just when I was about to suffocate, I was able to get up. During that night, I was so scared that I couldn't sleep anymore. The next morning, I collected all of Elena's cups and took them home to her parents. I wanted to tell them everything about how I knew the truck was coming but did nothing. But before I could say anything, Elena's mother cried and told me how Elena wanted to give me the cup for my birthday to surprise me.
Oh, Elena.
After hearing Elena's mother's words, on the way back home, my mind went blank. Suddenly, in front of my eyes was a girl holding a Starbucks cup with a happy face. Crossing the street, a high-speed truck was coming from afar. I didn't think much before screaming out and then running to push the girl away. But before I passed out, the last image was Elena's face smiling, some weeks relaxing somewhere in the suburbs. This year, I decided to find a place on Craigslist. You know, on Craigslist, you can buy or rent anything. I mean anything. So I found a fully furnished 2-story apartment for $800 a month. After finishing the forms they required, I moved into the accommodation. The owner had opened the door before I arrived. Impressive. I was glad he did that. But then I realized this house was not like I expected. It looked dark and a bit mysterious and smelt like something fishy, which almost made me throw up. When I opened the kitchen window, I saw some blood streaks on the sink. Maybe the owner had not cleaned up after cooking. Oh, that would explain the smell. I sighed and washed them away. The rest of the house was not any better. Every room was so messy and covered in a thin dust layer. I was quite disappointed. No wonder the rent was only $800. I went out into the yard to sit on the swing for a while, and then made a video call to my fiancée, Hazel. While talking with her, I noticed a man standing outside the fence staring at me. "Hi, can I help you?" I smiled politely, but he didn't say anything, just got into the car and drove away.
What's the matter?
Hazel asked. "No problem, just a weird old man." Through the screen, I took Hazel on a tour around the house. I showed her the floor with many colorful rugs, among which there was a rug with the vintage pattern that she loved so much. But it smells bad. Seemed like no one had ever washed it for a century. Maybe tomorrow I'll call the cleaning service. In the evening, I went to prepare dinner. I switched on the light. Nothing happened. However I tried, those lights did not light up. I went to check the main panel only to find that the fuse was burnt black. I felt like I was cheated by the house owner. What the hell is that? I was startled to see the weird old man again, driving slowly along the road and staring at me through the glass doors. And he smiled. "Sir, is there anything I can do for you?" But he disappeared before I got to the door. What's wrong with this guy? I mumbled and went into the house. The next morning, I called an electrician to fix the light system. After an hour, a guy named Nick rang the doorbell. He walked into the house and immediately covered his nose.
Sir, forgive me if I was rude, but do you smell something like dead rats in this house?
He asked me. I sniffed and realized that was the smell I found yesterday.
This looks like a murder scene.
Nick laughed, but immediately stopped when he saw me frowning.
But I must say the house smells very horrible.
Yeah, maybe it was from the dirty rugs. I'm gonna have them cleaned now, I said. Then Nick offered to help me take those rugs to the laundromat. While waiting for him to check the electrical system, I went out to the yard to make a phone call.
I'm afraid you may also need to call the rat exterminators,
Nick said while helping me lift the rug to his car. Both of us were dizzy because of its odor.
Oh, what the hell is that?
Nick suddenly said. When we lifted it up to see what was beneath, Nick and I both froze. Underneath the rug was a human-shaped stain, on which were traces of liquid, blood, and something I couldn't even name. There were also blood stains on the floor. I followed the trails of blood and discovered that there was blood underneath all the rugs. Both Nick and I couldn't hold it anymore. We ran out of the house and threw up. After my call, the police quickly came to investigate and got in touch with the homeowner. But his answer took us back.
This isn't my house?
Nick and I looked at each other without saying a word. It turned out that the house next door was the one I rented on Craigslist and should have moved in, not this one. Meanwhile, the house I just spent one night in belonged to the strange old man I met. I couldn't help but tremble when thinking that maybe last night he snuck into the house and tried to kill me. How lucky I was. The door was locked, so he couldn't get in. One, especially for a meat eater like me. Have you ever got almost crazy trying to control your craving for meat? If yes, then you know how I felt. One day, while walking down the street, I suddenly smelled an ecstatic scent from the newly opened Chick-fil-A store.
Want to try our new dish?
An employee with a plate of chicken approached me. No thanks, I'm a vegetarian.
Come on, just a piece. Won't kill anyone.
He kept inviting, and so did the chicken on the plate. I put forth a lot of effort maintaining a vegan diet, and just one bite could ruin it all. But that smell and the soft texture of the chicken, I miss that old feeling.
Okay, just one bite.
So I said yes, just one piece. No one will know. He joyfully gave me the menu, and the delicious dishes on there dazzled my eyes.
What would you like to order?
She smiled. Yes, please. One Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich. One Chick-fil-A... Oh my gosh, what did I just do? The guilt surged. I wanted to get up and leave, but I couldn't. The smell of delicious fried chicken. A waiter brought the food out. That sandwich seemed so alluring. And then I took a bite. Oh my gosh, it was, how to say, so divine. It tasted so different from the other sandwiches I tried before. I couldn't help devouring it. Just after a few minutes, the food boxes were empty. Oh no, oh no, look what I just did. Guilt quickly engulfed me. I was scared and frustrated, and then ran out of the store. That night, I had a high fever and terrible nausea, so I rushed to the bathroom. Strangely enough, I didn't vomit, but instead coughed violently. And then, from my mouth, I pulled out a feather. And when I looked in the mirror, I discovered that I had white hairs on my face, and they felt very itchy. I picked them up. Ouch! Were these hairs growing out from me?
Michael, are you okay?
My mother nervously called at the door. I'm fine. I didn't want my mom to know all of this. I gritted my teeth and endured it, tried to pull out the hairs one by one, even though my face was bleeding. I shouldn't have eaten it. I shouldn't have eaten it. After getting rid of the hairs, I went to bed and prepared to sleep. I hid those chicken feathers under the pillow. The next morning, I woke up tired. I yawned, but realized my voice was different. Okay, wait, what happened to my throat? I screamed, but the only sound that came out was a chicken croaking. I panicked and ran to the bathroom. Oh my God, my head had turned into a chicken's head. I cried.
Michael, what's in there? Are you okay?
My mother banged on the door. How could I let my mother see this form? But she kept banging on the door nervously. I panicked, put on my hat, and ran out of the room. I turned into a monster! I broke down, sobbed, but only heard the chicken croaking. I dared not raise my head to see people. As I ran across the Chick-fil-A store, the smell of fried chicken invited me in again. I didn't dare to speak, but only pointed at the menu with my sleeve. No one had seen my monstrous appearance. My delicious dish was brought out. I was about to eat when a staff member accidentally spilled a glass of water on me. So I reflexively took off my hat. She saw my appearance and shouted.
Monster!
Everyone in there started
Monster!
to yell.
Monster! Monster!
Those eyes made me panic. I was so scared, so dizzy that I could barely stand.
I'm a monster!
I rushed out of the Chick-fil-A store in a panic.
Hey! Please wait!
I couldn't hide my horrible appearance. People's eyes made my heart break.
Monster!
I was about to turn into a chicken. It was my mother.
Michael? Michael, where are you? Where are you?
She sounded so scared and worried. I wished I could call her, wished I could tell her what happened. But what came out of my mouth was just... And then when I was in despair, I didn't even notice that I was out in the middle of the road. I woke up to find myself in the hospital. Panicked, I raised my hand to touch my face. My whole face was bandaged. Mommy? In this story was put in the same situation, and even though she's a grown-up now, she still remembers what happened that day. 14 years ago, on a sunny Sunday afternoon, Sophia and her mother went to Walmart for some groceries. Since Sophia had done a good job helping her mom with housework, as a reward, Mom would buy her a Barbie school bag. Sophia was so excited that she kept singing until they'd arrived at the parking lot. She was happy every time going to the supermarket. It was time to run and juggle along hundreds of parallel aisles.
Sweetie, you shouldn't be running around like that.
Zoe reminded her daughter before giving her the bag she always wanted.
Thank you, Mommy!
The little girl hugged her mother.
Darling, now go to the play area and stay there while I go buy some fruit, all right?
Zoe led Sophia to the play area.
Remember, just stay here. I'll be right back, all right?
And so there was only happy Sophia left among hundreds of toys of all kinds. While Sophia was looking around, a stranger quietly approached her.
Hello, little friend.
Hi.
Sophia was startled, but still replied in a friendly manner.
Where's your mommy?
Sophia didn't answer, but pointed towards the fruit counter.
So, you're here alone?
This man's voice and appearance started to make her stomach turn. Mom always said to never talk to strangers, so she wouldn't say any other words.
Aw, I'm so sad because I don't have any friends.
Sophia suddenly felt pity for him.
Don't cry. I get it.
Sophia gave the man a candy to comfort him.
Ah, thank you, little friend.
Sophia!
Zoe called out her daughter's name.
I'm here, Mommy!
Seeing that the kid was all right, Zoe turned away, continuing to talk on the phone with customers. When Sophia turned back, the man had already disappeared. The man wasn't really leaving, he was observing. Now he was quite sure that the mother wouldn't be back right away. So he returned to Sophia.
Hey, little friend.
Oh, hi!
Thanks for the candy.
You're welcome.
Hey, little friend, I have something for you. This is a thank you gift.
Sophia looked at the beautiful doll with amusement.
So pretty.
She marveled while stroking the doll. Suddenly, she was gone.
Sophia?
Zoe returned and her daughter had already disappeared.
Sophia!
There was no answer. Feeling that something bad might have happened, she panicked and ran out to find her child.
Sophia!
It were as though she vanished.
Oh my God! Sophia! Where are you?
Zoe went from one toy aisle to another, but couldn't see any kids that looked like hers. She started to regret leaving her daughter alone. As soon as she reached the doll stall, Zoe paused. Wasn't that the backpack that Sophia was wearing before? She ran around to ask for help.
Please help me. My daughter is missing.
Most people just ignored her because they didn't know what was going on. Finally, there was a Walmart security guard standing nearby.
Excuse me. My daughter is lost. Please help me.
She cried.
Please, calm down. I will immediately call the security center to find her.
The guard said.
Sophia!
Zoe immediately ran like crazy to where she heard her daughter. It seemed that Zoe's cries and Sophia's struggle worked. The man dropped the girl and ran away. Sophia ran towards her mother. Zoe immediately hugged her daughter and couldn't help crying.
I'm scared.
As soon as she met her mother, Sophia quickly hugged her neck.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, honey.
The man was quickly arrested. The incident stirred the media for a while and became a warning for mothers not to let their children play in supermarkets or shopping centers by themselves.
Sweetie, I'm sorry. From now on, I will never ever let you out of my sight.
Subway food store for more than 15 minutes. Gosh, this store had never been this crowded. It had been like that ever since those two new girls came. Whatever. I just wanted to order my favorite bread. But they worked so slow that the waiting line got very long. One of the girls saw me and sighed and looked away. I remembered her. Her name was Ashley. A few days ago, I came to Subway to buy food, and even though I had told her exactly 15 times that I didn't want ketchup, she didn't listen to me at all. I lost my temper and then had a quarrel with Ashley. Finally, the manager came to apologize to me, while Ashley got a day's salary deducted. But what still annoyed me was her attitude. What an obnoxious hussy. She muttered something to the employee next to her. They definitely were talking about me.
Hey, what took so long?
Ashley stopped whispering. She sneered and then got back to her work. And she threw a glance at me. Finally, it was my turn to order. Ashley went inside right when I came to her.
What would you like to order, sir?
The other girl, named Julia, looked a bit shy.
1 chicken and bacon ketchup melt, no ketchup, please. Bear in mind, no ketchup. No ketchup. Got it?
I repeated many times just to make sure. I decided to follow Julia without her noticing when she brought my order in there.
Hey, no ketchup.
Julia said to Ashley.
He'll never know.
Ashley sneered while pouring ketchup over my bread. I told her not to. Damn it. As if that wasn't enough, she spat a puddle of saliva onto the bread.
He deserves it. And don't you tell the manager.
Ashley threatened Julia. At that moment, I just wanted to rush over and rip that Ashley to pieces. Then the two girls walked out.
Please, come and take your meals.
I'm not taking this.
Sir, I didn't put the sauce in, as you asked.
Really? I saw her spit on my food.
I pointed out to Ashley. Her eyes kept rolling because of that.
Sir, what are you talking about? We never did.
I saw you do it with my own eyes. You did it.
Ashley asked me to show evidence, but who needed proof? I had seen it with my naked eyes.
You were there. Tell everyone.
I pointed at Julia. but she was so scared that she stammered and ended up defending her colleague.
No, we never did.
Fine. Then what is this? I said no ketchup dressing!
There was no way that witch could get out of this. So she kept quiet, and Julia apologized and offered to make another bread. Meanwhile, the culprit Ashley immediately stormed inside.
Remember, no ketchup!
I was good with Julia. She was a better waitress. However, she immediately proved the opposite because she put ketchup onto my bread again. Ever since I stepped into this goddamned place, these two dumbasses had been making fun of me. I couldn't stand them anymore.
I told you no ketchup!
Sir, I'm sorry. Please calm down. This is a mistake.
Mistake my ass!
I stormed in and grabbed the fork in the jar and rushed to her. Julia covered her face, screaming in pain. Damn it! Damn it! I frantically stabbed her even though she was crying in deadly pain. Right. I had to kill her. I had to kill her. She must die.
Go to hell!
Julia!
That witch. It was all her fault. That devil Ashley finally came out. I furiously rushed to her with my fork.
Time to die! Time to die!
I didn't remember how many times I stabbed her, but when I stopped, she was lying there in a pool of blood. And then a group of people quickly rushed over to suppress me. Ashley was dead right after that. Julia went to the hospital and I was brought here. It was all Ashley's fault. It was because of her that no one believed me, and I was brought here. I told her not to put the ketchup in, but she didn't listen at all.
No ketchup! No ketchup! No ketchup! No ketchup!
Can even bring danger to a whole plane. Well, I witnessed that once, and I don't want that nightmare to happen a second time. It was a summer day in June. After a year of hard work, I decided to treat myself to a trip to Hawaii. Traveling alone was something so fun, especially when you're an introvert. I checked in just in time to board the plane. When finding my seat, I was annoyed to see someone sitting there already. Some minutes later, the flight attendant approached and asked me to settle down, so I had to walk over to my seat.
Excuse me? I think this is my seat. But I don't like to sit near the window, so I prefer this one. But the seat is on the ticket. I don't think we can change, but I don't want to change it. Any problems?
Because of her loud voice, everyone turned back and looked at me. I was so embarrassed that I forced myself to sit near the window. After the plane took off, that woman took off the mask, while the flight attendant asked everyone to wear masks during the flight.
Hey, why did you take off the mask?
She glared at me with red eyes.
What's the matter? Why are you so nosy? Never mind.
But then I decided to report this.
Can I go to the bathroom for a bit?
The woman reluctantly said.
What a disturbing thing.
I moved out and went across the restroom to the cabin. I wanted to inform the flight attendant about the woman's behavior. That made me very uncomfortable. After listening to my report, the flight attendant went to talk to her. But you think that was all? Not so easy. The Karen yelled,
I just took off my mask for a snack. Is there any need to be so strict?
Then glared at me. The flight attendant turned to me.
Is that true?
I hesitated for a moment, then shook my head slightly. The flight attendant looked at the woman.
Would you mind putting the mask back on now?
But is it a big deal? I only took off my mask for 1 minute. Why are you so unreasonable?
But it's the rules, so I ask you to strictly follow it.
Do you want me to die? With the mask on, how can I breathe properly? I'll sue you!
Madam, I ask you to sit down and stay calm, and then put on your mask.
The woman suddenly grabbed the flight attendant by the collar.
I don't like masks! Can you understand it?
I stood up and tried to stop her, but to no avail. The woman then pushed the flight attendant aside.
What would you do to me?
The other people seemed so panicked. The woman got her face close to the attendant. She seemed so mad. Then she suddenly turned around and pointed at me.
You're the one who did this!
She rushed over to me and picked me up by the neck. I was so scared, I could hardly breathe. My whole body was drained of strength.
It's you!
The woman then pushed me down on the seat and took my mask off. Fortunately, at that moment, the flight attendant appeared in time and tied her up with duct tape. With the help of another flight attendant, they tied the woman to the chair and dragged me out. My whole body was shaking, my heart was still beating fast, and I felt short of breath even though the flight attendant kept reassuring me. After the plane landed, the police quickly showed up. The woman kept screaming at them and ended up being handcuffed off the plane. Well, it was the scariest flight of my life, and now every time I see someone like that woman, I get chills. I wish you a happy traveling season and to never get into the same situation as I did. To break into your house. That day, Olivia was home alone. She was lying on her bed and texting with Alex, just a random guy she met online recently. Mom called and told her to check the doors carefully before going to bed. Mom was right to be worried. In the past few days, there had been people disguised as creepy clowns wandering off the streets. But anyway, those cases were reported from South Carolina, while Olivia's house was in Illinois. Those idiot clowns would never come to this neighborhood.
Don't forget to double-check the window.
Mom, I got it. I'm 17. I'm not a child anymore.
Olivia was a little annoyed because her mother kept treating her like a child. After a few minutes, she hung up the phone. Just as Olivia was about to return to her room, there was a sudden knock on the front door.
Who could be here at this time? Ugh, so annoying.
She mumbled while getting to the door, but when she looked through the peephole on the door, there was no one outside. It must be the bratty kid Tony next door with his new trick, she thought, and walked up the stairs. Then came the knock again, and this time it made Olivia really angry. She crept to the door, preparing to swing it open and scold the boy. But when she looked through the peephole again, Olivia jumped in fear. On the outside, there was a wide-open, bloodshot eye. It was so close to the peephole. There was no kid outside, but a man in a clown costume. He was staring at the peephole at the same time Olivia was. And not only did he stare in, but he was also grinning weirdly, waving his hand and banging on the door repeatedly. After a while, the breaking in failed, and he suddenly left the house. Thinking he had given up, Olivia breathed a sigh of relief. But just a few seconds later, she saw his shadow flickering through the window. He was heading towards the kitchen. He repeatedly turned the doorknob, but still could not get in. He didn't stop, but continued to walk towards the back door. Oh my God! Olivia couldn't remember whether she locked the back door or not. Frightened and trembling, Olivia ran upstairs looking for somewhere to hide. She didn't dare get near any door because the clown was out there and he might catch her. No room seemed safe enough, she thought, her hands shaking as she dialed the phone. But damn, it already ran out of battery power. Olivia burst into tears. She had never felt so scared and helpless. Now that the clown got into the house, she could clearly hear his footsteps from downstairs. The clown was holding a knife in his hand, walking around slowly in the living room. He had just whistled, echoing through the quiet house, scaring Olivia even more. Something had fallen to the ground. Olivia covered her mouth not to make a peep. She was afraid to death. The clown slowly walked along the hallway, opening every door he passed. And then he suddenly sped up toward the stairs, coming up with sick and twisted ideas. Deadly silence. Olivia could no longer hear anything but the sound of her heart pounding wildly. She was about to open the door, but the footsteps came again. Now he was right in front of Olivia's room and opened the door. The half-open wardrobe caught his attention. He gave a wry smile and crept over. He opened the wardrobe, but there was no one inside. Olivia was under the bed. She didn't dare to even breathe heavily, only focused on his feet moving around. The clown was so close, step by step. He walked towards the bed where the panicking girl was hiding. Her whole body was petrified, so much that she couldn't even move an inch. Until the police cordoned off the entire house and found Olivia shivering under the bed, still alive. The clown had run away, and the police never found him. Olivia's mom was the one to dial 911 right after she checked the security camera and... Just another Saturday night, my wife and daughter and I went to IKEA for some furniture. We wanted to prepare for our beloved child, who was already of school age. We planned to have dinner somewhere and then go shopping. When dinner was over, I told them to hang on a second and then got to the bathroom. But after seeing a long queue at the restaurant restroom, I decided to find another one. Luckily, there was a bathroom for guests downstairs.
Finally, thank God.
A guy ran over me. He must have been in an awful rush. I opened the door just 5 seconds after him to see the narrow white hallway, but that man just disappeared. I walked around but couldn't find any restrooms inside. Here came another door. This must be it, I mumbled and quickly opened it. Oh my goodness, I was surprised to see behind the door a lot of shelves with boxes, so no bathroom. I was disappointed. This was just a warehouse instead of a toilet. I turned back angrily, but in front of me was a wall. What the hell was going on? Where was the door I had just gone through? Unable to hold it any longer, I found an old empty box and peed inside of it. 15 minutes had passed since I left the table. I called my wife to help me find the way out. No signal. Things started to get out of control. I had to find a way out of here as soon as possible. I found a knife on the shelf, so I grabbed it to protect myself, then walked slowly forward. How can IKEA have such a huge warehouse? Furniture piled up here. Had anyone else gotten lost in here before? I kept going straight ahead, hoping to find the exit. It had been a while. My wife and daughter must be worried, so I kept walking on aimlessly. An hour passed, I was so scared. I screamed for help, but no one heard. I tried to use the GPS on my phone to find the location, but it didn't work without signal, like a rat caught in a trap. I was almost crazy. Suddenly, I caught a glimpse of a yellow figure wearing an IKEA uniform from afar. I was saved. I'd better run to him soon, or else I would have to stay here all night since it was almost closing time. So I ran and called out, Excuse me! Excuse me! Could you help me get out of here? But that person didn't seem to hear me. He stood there, emotionless, and turned his back on me. Pardon me, could you help? But I didn't feel better. A shiver went down my spine when I saw a faceless creature wearing an IKEA uniform. His two unusually large hands were hanging loose. I stepped back shakingly, but it didn't seem to notice me. I quickly crept away from there, and at that moment, I realized that more and more such creatures appeared around.
It's closing time. Please leave the store.
That announcement was like a signal for these freak creatures to be alive. They all started to move. Sensing the danger, I started running from that place. The monsters rushed towards me. Holding the knife firmly in my hand, I started slashing at them repeatedly. They weren't fast, but there were so many of them, and I was soon exhausted. I felt hopeless. Perhaps I would die here this way. They were too numerous to kill all of them. Suddenly, one of them grabbed my legs, and they reached out their arms toward me. Was I ready to die? No. I thought about my family while trying to crawl out, but I was getting weaker and weaker. My hand went numb, the knife fell from my fingers, and my eyes were blurred with sweat and blood. And in front of me was just an empty wall. Wall? Wall? At that point, a door suddenly appeared in front of me, as if finding a light at the end of the path. I grabbed the knife, trying to get to the door before it disappeared. I thought I had escaped from this infinite space, but I was wrong. The door led me to another dimension. I'd just entered a loophole in IKEA. And through this distance, I saw a creature in IKEA uniform, standing there motionless, like a statue. No! No! No!
Oh, shit!
Welcome to Hawaii.
Chloe put a white shell necklace on me and kissed me on the cheek. Wow, it's so beautiful. Thank you. Then I was taken to a motel near the center. It was strange to see that the place was pretty quiet even in the traveling season.
The guests are all gone for sightseeing,
Chloe explained. The daughter of the motel owner, Chloe, was confident that she knew the island very well. She wanted to be my tour guide, and I said yes. So we took a tour in Hawaii, to the traditional market for some cuisine, and then to Waikiki Beach.
Where are you going?
I'm thirsty. I'm going to buy some water.
Let me go with you.
Well, okay. I found it a bit odd when Chloe tried to stay near me all the time. She even followed me to the bathroom door. Well, you don't have to follow me all the time, you know.
No, you are a special guest.
Then we met Chloe's boyfriend, Kai. As soon as Kai saw me, he shook my hand, hugged me, and kissed my cheek in the Hawaiian tradition. Aha! Welcome to Hawaii, my friend. Kai patted me on the back as if we had known each other for years. So Kai and Chloe took me around together. I was probably walking too fast or something, but the two of them kept falling behind my back. After a day on the streets, I felt quite tired, so I wanted to get back to the motel. But unexpectedly, Kai and Chloe came along.
We have to make sure you're okay.
You're a special guest. Well, thank you very much. Kai behaved so weird. He wasn't angry even when seeing Chloe laughing and getting close to me. Getting back to my room, I took a shower and then decided to go outside for a breeze. However, when I walked to the door and looked through the peephole, I was startled. What's wrong with them? I felt uncomfortable, so I opened the door. Hi, is there something wrong? No, not at all.
Actually, we wanted to invite you to the beach party.
Oh, I was reading into it. Wow, I'd love to. I was watching the pictures when there was a knock on the door. It was Kai and Chloe.
It's time.
Chloe handed me a glass of red wine. It'll bring you luck. Oh, this is so strong. I was surprised, and not until they both stood up and stared at me did I feel dizzy. There was something in the cup of wine. Before I completely passed out, I saw Chloe and Kai grin evilly. When I woke up, still a bit dizzy, I found myself tied to a pillar and Chloe busy doing something. She said something to Kai and he turned to me. Although I was scared, I pretended to faint to find a chance to escape. I listened to the conversation between the two and couldn't help but shiver. Were they planning for a sacrifice? Then my life would be at stake. When Kai untied the rope to bring me to Chloe, I quickly bit his ear. Kai screamed in pain and pushed me aside. I took that chance to run away. No time to see the direction. I just followed the small path and ran into the forest. While running, I could still hear Kai chasing from behind. The more I was scared, the more I tried to run, not daring to stop even for a second. I didn't dare to stop running until making sure they stopped chasing. Where was I right now? In front of me was a corpse tied to the tree. On its neck was a white shell necklace that looked exactly like the one Chloe had given me. It reminded me of the strange feeling I had when arriving at the motel. The feeling of being completely deserted.
They've all gone out for sightseeing.
Only now did I understand what kind of sightseeing Chloe was referring to. Suddenly, Kai appeared in front of my eyes and pushed me to the ground. He rushed to grab my neck. I was so scared, panicked, and struggled. And in the moment when I thought I was about to suffocate, I, fortunately, grabbed a stone. I used all my strength to hit him on the head. He screamed in pain to let go of me. I immediately ran away. No longer seeing any of them behind, I kept running down the small path until finally escaping the forest. Aggressive and entitled, she pushed the staff away and went straight to the counter.
Hey, what happened to your ears, mashed potato and fried chicken?
That woman said. Ma'am, you're not wearing a mask. We can't give you food, said my colleague Ryan.
What are you saying? I said I'm hungry and I need food immediately!
She ignored all the things we were trying to say. Suddenly, she climbed onto the counter and yelled at Ryan.
Make me something to eat! Do it!
She threw things around and just stood there screaming at Ryan. That was when I stepped in. Ma'am, please calm down. She turned to me.
I will stab you. Bring the mashed potatoes and chicken over here!
She screamed, then scratched her own face. God, I thought she'd gone crazy. We can't do that because you're not wearing a mask, I tried to explain calmly.
I'll stab you now! Bring the food here!
The woman waved her arms and cursed with a defiant attitude and her terribly scratched face. She ignored all my words and yelled loudly.
Get me the goddamn food!
That woman was so angry that she kicked the menu on the table. You must wear your mask. The angry woman cursed at me with vulgar words and then jumped off the counter.
This restaurant is disgusting! You're disgusting!
Then she stormed out. After the crazy woman left, we all sighed in relief, though I hadn't gotten myself together yet. This was the first time I'd seen such a Karen in real life. We didn't want that kind of customer ever again, so I just quietly cleaned up everything and went back to work as usual. When my shift ended, I packed up my things and went home. On the road, sometimes I could feel the footsteps behind me, as if someone were following me. But every time I turned around, there was just me and the empty street. So weird. I mumbled and walked faster. I knew someone was following me. Suddenly, I turned around. Sure enough, someone hid as soon as they saw me. I swallowed hard, clenched my fists, determined to find out who they were. So I walked very slowly towards the alley. Karen jumped out of the alley and ran toward me. Fortunately, I caught her hand before she could stab me. Oh my God, she was so strong.
I told you I was hungry. Don't you understand?
The woman growled. She was crazy. Her eyes were bloodshot. Her mouth was drooling as if she wanted to eat me alive. She pushed down the knife. Luckily, I dodged to the side just in time. I pushed her away, but she wouldn't stop. That crazy woman took the javelin towards me and took one bite. I struggled to push her away.
That tastes good.
This woman was a psycho.
Please, calm down.
I held back the pain, trying to convince her.
Go to hell!
But she didn't listen. She clutched the knife and pounced on me.
You!
She shivered, laying on the ground, blood flowing from her stomach.
It was your fault!
I was so scared, and my mind was a mess at that time. I didn't know what to do.
Help me!
She moaned. I was so scared that I left the woman and ran all the way home. All that night I couldn't sleep well. I wished all these things were just a dream. The next morning, the police arrived at my door. Only then did I know that that woman last night was discovered and taken to the emergency room in time, so she was not in danger. And even though she stabbed herself in the stomach, I couldn't help but blame myself. God, if only I had served her food at that time. I want to tell you a story about my last working day as a teacher. A horrible day that gives me goosebumps every time I think about it. It was 11 in the morning. I was teaching literature in the class. The students were sitting lazily. They didn't seem to listen at all. I got out of class and went to the bathroom. While I was washing my face after a long morning, suddenly the loudspeaker sounded.
Attention! There is a maniac with weapons in the school. Everyone, stay in your classroom, lock the door, and do not come out until getting further notice.
As soon as the bell rang, I rushed back to the classroom and locked the door.
Oh, dear. Did you all hear the announcement? No one is allowed to leave the classroom.
But Lizzie exclaimed,
Miss, I want to go to the bathroom.
Oh no, not now, honey. Can you hold on for a while?
But I don't think I can hold it any longer.
Lizzie pouted.
Okay, let me think. Oh, all right now. You'll run as fast as you can to the bathroom. And after you've done, come back. Knock on the door 3 times. 1 long and 2 short. Like a code. Understand?
Lizzie said with an annoyed face.
Yes, I'll do as you said. Can I go now?
Okay, be careful.
I unlocked the door for Lizzie to get out. While we were waiting, Other students started whispering and making jokes.
I've seen it in the movies. Maybe they're just pretend, like a rehearsal, you know? No fool would run into the school.
I told all of them
Students, this is no joke!
and showed them the message from the principal. Suddenly, the atmosphere became quiet. 10 minutes passed, and I started to worry. Suddenly, the fire alarm went off.
Oh, why has Lizzie not come back?
Suddenly, there was someone knocking on the door 3 times. Exactly the code I told Lissy. I was about to open the door.
But teacher, what if it's not Lissy?
It was Dave, the class monitor.
Are you sure it's Lissy?
What are you talking about? Only Lizzie knows the code.
Actually, I was afraid it wasn't Lissy too.
If it were someone else, we might be killed.
But if it's the real Lizzie, we can't just leave her out there. But just to be sure, maybe.
And then I turned toward the classroom door and whispered,
Oh, Lizzie, can you raise your hand up to the classroom window so that we can be sure?
Immediately, I saw a raised hand, and it was Lissy's. I saw her pink-polished nails, so I unlocked the door. But that was not Lissy, or at least it was not Lissy who knocked because she was now a corpse in a man's arms.
Hello, teacher. I'm Lizzie.
The man imitated Lissy's voice. All the students screamed. My whole body froze. The psycho then dropped the body on the ground and said,
Teacher, I'm back.
and thrust the knife at me. I fell on the ground while my students shouted louder. Just when he was about to pick up the knife and stab me in the face, I raised my hand to stop him. The knife went through my hand. Blood splashed on my face. The madman took the knife out of my hand and Dave jumped out, grabbing the chair and hitting the madman on the head. He fell over but immediately got up.
How dare you, little brat!
He lunged at Dave, stabbing him in the shoulder with the knife.
Let me go!
I was in so much pain that I couldn't stand up to help my students. All the others were too frightened. They huddled in a corner and did not dare to protest. But when looking out the window, I suddenly had a crazy idea.
The classroom is on the 2nd floor. Maybe jumping down from here won't kill me. Then I could go to the police to rescue my students.
So while the psycho was being held by Dave, I tried to move towards the classroom window, and after an inhale, I jumped down. But before I could do anything else, I fainted from the excessive blood loss from the wound on my arm. I woke up in the emergency room. The police reassured me that the other students were safe. The police arrived after that and soon controlled the psycho, but they could not save Dave. What a bad teacher I am. If I hadn't let Lizzie go to the bathroom, things would have been different. If you were me in that situation, what would you have done? The keen-eyed guy she had swiped left a few minutes ago. Hi. He started first, just the way she liked. So 2 of them texted each other for hours until he asked to meet Hazel for a coffee somewhere. So she would meet Noah at a vintage bar downtown. She was so excited to see this handsome guy. But when she got there, Noah hadn't arrived. So she sat down at a table in the corner to wait. The doorbell rang. A well-dressed guy with neat and trendy hair walked in. Hazel wasn't sure, but when she saw those mesmerizing eyes, no more doubt, that was exactly the one.
Noah.
Hi, are you Hazel? He asked and smiled. Hazel couldn't help but keep staring into Noah's eyes. His green eyes were so intense. Noah was still waiting for the answer.
Yes, I'm Hazel. Have a seat.
So the 2 started a conversation. Everything seemed to go smoothly, except for an awkward moment when Hazel paused for too long, staring into Noah's beautiful eyes.
You all right? He asked.
Yeah.
She took a sip of wine.
Oh, but I have to say that your eyes are so pretty, Noah.
Hazel suddenly leaned forward as if to make eye contact, causing Noah to jump back a little.
I wish I could have those eyes of green.
Then Hazel wanted to touch his eyes, but suddenly she felt dizzy. Everything around her spinned. Hazel felt something was wrong, and when she looked over at Noah, she only saw his eyes staring at her and smiling evilly. Hazel reached her hands to Noah, but before she could do anything, she collapsed on the table. Hazel woke up to feel her whole body heavy like water. She could barely open her eyes.
Where is this place?
She looked around. This was an old, dilapidated room with a strong, musty smell. And there was a small window that looked over a vast forest. This place looked like an abandoned house. She heard footsteps and then sat up and waited to see that face again. All she could do now was shake in fear. That was Noah. He greeted her with that smile again. Good to see you back. He grinned so weirdly.
Let me out, Noah! Let me out! Let me out!
Scream however you want. No one can hear you anyways.
Noah looked at his prey in fear.
Hey, naive girl. Don't you know that there are a lot of bad people on Tinder? How can you go meet someone you just talked to so easily?
Noah pressed Hazel's face. His hand lifted her chin up. She stared at those eyes, which were now full of evil thoughts. He threw her on the floor. Her back hit the ground. She struggled with all her might, but her hands were restrained, so she couldn't move. Noah laughed out loud when he saw that. But this was out of his expectation.
Damn it, Hazel!
He screamed.
This is not good!
Noah fell on his back. He didn't expect that while he was still busy fidgeting, Hazel broke free of the ropes and waited for an opportunity to counterattack and surprise him. Noah was angry. His green eyes were full of red blood. He must punish Hazel. Noah staggered back and was horrified by the wound on his chest. In Hazel's hand was a knife hidden in a comb. Now he saw Hazel crouched close to his face. Her innocent face now seemed so different, so evil. Noah tried to raise his hands to grab her, but he was like a fish out of water, unable to do anything.
Hey, be quiet. Everything will be all right.
Ignoring Noah writhing in pain, Hazel got up and paced around the room to examine.
Thank you for leading me to such a wonderful place where no one could hear your miserable screams.
Hazel sneered. Noah was so scared. What are you gonna do?
Oh, don't cry. Your eyes won't look good anymore.
Hazel stroked Noah's hair, comforting. Noah panicked, weakly trying to back away, but Hazel had a knife in her hand.
It won't hurt.
Hazel gently placed that pair of eyes covered with blood and cords inside the small box.
So beautiful!
Hazel lay in her room, her legs dangling in delight, her fingers gliding Tinder evenly.
Ooh. This color is so pretty too.
A new match from Tinder.
It's almost 11 o'clock. Hopefully they're still open.
Marble said to herself. She was on her way home when the hunger pain came. She stopped by Burger King's drive-thru to buy some food. When she pulled up to the order machine, there was no staff's welcome.
Why is it so quiet in there?
Thinking a while, she raised her voice.
Hello? Is there anybody there? I'd like to get some food.
The order board lit up, but still no response.
Hello? Can you hear me? Looks like I have to go inside to order.
She drove to the pickup counter, inside of which was an employee dressed in a Burger King mascot. He was doing something in the kitchen.
Hey you, I placed an order earlier in the drive-thru line, but no one was there, so I came inside.
Hearing her voice, the man turned around and stared at her face. His eyes were bloodshot. His face was white. He was holding a piece of fresh meat, trying to spread an industrial smile. He said,
Hello, how can I help you?
He raised his hand to adjust the paper crown on his head. Marble was too hangry to care about this man's scary look. She immediately said,
Can I order here?
Sure, of course.
Okay, can I have a regular hamburger and a strawberry shake?
Got it. It'll just be a few minutes.
15 minutes had passed. Marble was still in the car waiting.
What's wrong with this place?
She rolled down the window and called inside.
Hey! Why is it taking so long? I've been waiting for 15 minutes!
Only silence.
Fair enough. Let's go in there to see where my food is.
Marble drove to the parking lot and entered the store. The store was unusually quiet. Suddenly, she heard rustling just above her head. She looked up to the ceiling and saw that somebody was crawling in a plastic pipe.
Hey, who's up there?
That figure suddenly stopped.
I know someone's up there!
The shadow continued to crawl until the end of the pipe, then stuck its head out. It was a man in a Burger King uniform. Before Marble could say anything, the man raised a shushing finger, telling Marble to be silent. Then he whispered,
You should get out of here.
Marble still didn't understand what was going on. She angrily said,
What a bunch of nonsense!
Then she walked over to the counter and peeked into the kitchen to see the mascot guy doing something. Marble loudly called out,
Hey you! What's wrong with this place?
Hearing Marble's voice, the man immediately turned around and stared at her.
Oh, it's you!
Yes, it's me. Where's my food?
With that industrial smile again, he walked towards the cash register slowly.
Are you hungry?
Yes! I'm starving! Bring me my food!
Just a second.
He turned around, walked into the kitchen, and grabbed a hamburger with his hand.
Here you go. A regular hamburger, right?
Marble suddenly trembled when she saw the hamburger in his hand. It was not an ordinary burger. Between the two buns was a human hand still bleeding. At this moment, Marble suddenly remembered the employee crawling in the pipe earlier. She turned her shaking head to look at the pipe in the ceiling. Just then, the Burger King man yanked her by the hair and smashed her head against the cash register.
Where are you looking? Aren't you going to take the burger?
Marble cried and begged.
Please! Please! Let me go!
Eat your burger!
While he spoke, the crazy Burger King man stuffed the burger into her mouth. Marble tried to resist, but the guy laughed and forced her to eat the human hand burger.
Help! Help! Please, help!
Marble pleaded for help from the man inside of the pipe but got no answer.
No one can help you. No one! Now eat your hamburger! Now eat your hamburger!
She had no more strength to resist and soon fainted. He grabbed her by the
one
hand
can
and
help
dragged her
you.
into the kitchen. At this time, the other man looked down from the pipe and desperately said, "I'm sorry." Marble burst into tears and passed out. The next morning, the police received a report from Marble's family. They went to Burger King only to find 2 victims dead in a state of disfigurement, including Marble. Some of her body parts were scattered in the oven, and some were found in a blender. According to the employee in the pipe, the murderer killed the original employee wearing the mascot, then put on that suit himself, entered the staff area, and massacred the employees on that shift. Since then, no matter how hard the police tried, they never captured that Burger King murderer. But someone said that they could see a figure, a Burger King mascot, walking around at 11 o'clock at night. Finally, I found my first job as a shift employee at Taco Bell. It wasn't a high-paid job, but I appreciated it anyway. I often worked in the morning, but today my boss suddenly asked if I could change to the night shift from 8 p.m. to 3 a.m. Working the night shift is paid higher than usual, so I said yes. The store was quite empty at night. There was nothing much to do, so Lizzie and I just took turns to tend the counter. Lizzie was sitting idle in the kitchen and listening to the news on her phone. Recently, a serial killer has been reported to be on the run. Lizzie was interested in the breaking news, and so she always wanted to update the latest ones. I didn't care much about the news, just sat there looking at the heavy rain outside the glass door. This kind of weather made my mood even worse. Under the dim light, a customer wearing a black raincoat opened the door and moved toward the counter.
Welcome to Taco Bell.
I said politely. That man looked at the menu on the table for a long time.
We're very sorry for this inconvenience, but the restaurant is out of power. We only have tacos meal.
Damn it, he whispered, then pointed to the tacos meal menu.
Which flavor would you like, sir?
Then I asked a few more questions, ready to take notes.
What sauce would you like to have?
Whatever.
Do you drink soft drinks?
Yes.
Soda or juice?
Whatever.
Do you want to put in...
He banged on the side table and rushed to grab my neck. His eyes were bloodshot red. Then he yelled at me, "Quit mouthing and bring me food!" I was scared to the point of tears. This was my first time dealing with such a rude customer. In the kitchen, Lizzie heard a loud noise and rushed out. But instead of intervening, Lizzie stood there and stared at him. For a moment, she seemed to be shaking with fear.
The murderer was witnessed to appear in a black raincoat most of the time. The police are tracing his whereabouts at the moment.
Hurry! That man raised his voice again and got off my neck. My knees buckled and I gasped for air after almost suffocating. Lizzie was trembling while preparing food for him. That man paced back and forth in front of the counter as if he was monitoring us. As soon as Lizzie completed the meal and gave it to him, he grabbed it immediately. Taking a crumpled note from his pocket, he threw it on the bar and left. We just stood there full of suspicion and fear. He didn't even pay enough for the meal. After making sure that the man was gone, I breathed a sigh of relief. I went back to the counter, but slipped and fell. Lizzie quickly helped me up, but at that moment, I found my hand was covered by a red liquid. On the freshly cleaned floor, there were patchy red footprints. Lizzie and I looked at each other. We were all in shock. Just then, Lizzie's phone got a new report about a murder in the nearby area. There was no doubt that we'd just met the serial killer, and even served him food. We stood inside the restaurant, peering outside to see if the man was gone. It was raining heavily, and the man was nowhere to be seen.
We must get out of here,
Lizzie said. I knew Lizzie was trying to be calm, but I could hear her voice shaking. On the outside, it was still raining and freezingly cold. Lizzie was so scared that she dropped the key. I quickly picked it up and locked the front door for her. There was a sudden flash of lightning, and for 1 second we could see clearly our reflection on the glass window. But there were 3 shadows. It was him. He came back. The murderer in the black raincoat came to dispose of us. Before we could run away, he stabbed Lizzie with a sharp knife right in her back. When he pulled the knife out, his face was covered in her blood. Lizzie fell to the ground. I was frozen. That man raised his knife again and turned to look at me. When he was about to swing the knife, Lizzie grasped the blade by her hand, which was bleeding profusely.
Run!
Lizzie struggled for breath. I was too terrified to move an inch. The man snatched the knife. Lizzie was pierced continuously, blood splashing all over the ruthless killer. I ran away in the rain, and the murderer, after pulling the knife from Lizzie's body, quickly chased after me. At that time, my ears were filled up and my eyes could no longer see anything. I kept running in the rain until I saw the light from a car approaching.
What happened?
The driver rolled down the window and asked me.
Help me.
The driver opened the door for me to get in and quickly turned around. I looked in the rearview mirror. That man, who now knew he missed a prey, was standing in the rain. Even though I didn't see him clearly, I could feel his eyes on me.
Cody went ahead and I followed right behind, straining my eyes to look ahead in the direction he pointed. Oh my God, I think he was right. A treehouse. And that was a big one. But it looked very old. We had to go far away from our home, to the edge of the forest to finally find this treehouse, because it is also hidden by many bushes and ancient trees.
See, I told you this paper was a treasure map.
I've never seen Cody so excited. So about a week ago, his dog disappeared for several days in a row. Fortunately, until the 5th day of missing, it eventually came home with a piece of paper with strange markings on it. Cody insisted it was a treasure map, and it took us a week to get our parents' permission to start our adventure.
Now comes the hardest part. Who's gonna do it? Zoe, what does it look like?
Oh, how should I describe it?
Spiderwebs clung to the faraway ceiling, drifting in the weak breeze. There were no toys, no tents, and no fluffy pillows of all kinds.
I don't think you'd like it up here.
I hollered to Cody, and I noticed jam pouring everywhere over the mattress and on the floor. It seemed that Cody and I weren't the first ones to discover it. You know what's even more weird? In the middle of the house were clothes and all kinds of stuff. And I could see a part of the large cage hidden behind the mess. I sighed. And just imagining Cody's reaction when seeing this could make me frustrated. He must be very disappointed. At that moment, I heard Cody whispering my name, as if he was afraid anyone would overhear us.
Zoe, we have to go.
Well, well, well. Look who I found.
Before I could react, I heard a man's voice coming from below. Is he the owner of this treehouse? God, if that's true, then Cody and I got in big trouble. While I didn't know what to do, I heard Cody reply,
My dad's a cop. He's on his way back.
That's my friend Cody, the smartest friend that I've had. But that man seemed not to be convinced because I heard him saying,
Oh, is that so? Because if I find out you're lying, I'll split your throat.
As soon as I heard this, I started to panic. It's easy for Cody to get out of this situation. He's right below and he can run away at any moment. But I have no way to escape. He's gonna find me as long as he comes up here. I was in a complete state of panic. While my body went cold with dread, I backed away to the corner of the room. Just then, I realized I'd made my way through the mess and my back touched the cage. That's when I thought, it's not just me in the treehouse. I slowly turned around, and the next second, my whole body froze. There was a monster in the cage. I've never witnessed such horrible scenes in my life. It seemed that my scream had awakened the monster, which slowly raised its face, revealing its bony face and bloodshot eyes.
Zoe! Zoe! Get out of there! Now!
Cody's call brought me back to reality. I shivered out of that hellish corner. The monster was still staring at me with wide eyes, its hand even reaching out as if it wanted to attack me. I decided to climb down despite what was waiting for me down there. Oh my God! The man had a very scary face. His eyes were red and full of anger.
You lying kids! Prepare yourself to die!
His rage exploded as soon as he saw me, but there was nothing he could do because Cody was using his whole body to stop that maniac.
Run! Zoe! Just run! To tell my parents! They're gonna know what to do!
What about you?
I can hold him! Just hurry up and come back!
That's right. That's the only way. Following Cody's instruction, I ran and ran and ran. I didn't look back until I was out of the woods. Took me more than 10 years to come back to this treehouse. I know Cody is gone, but somehow I feel like he's still staying around.
Enjoying the spring fair is the annual tradition of me and Luna. So here I am, waiting for her at 3 p.m. to celebrate 2022. This year, my friend is wearing a crop top, short skirt, and pretty as usual. It was a gloomy day, but my mood lifted due to the bustling atmosphere. Luna dragged me to the Ferris wheel to take pictures. That's when I realized the difference of this fair compared to the previous ones. A Huggy Wuggy mascot was standing near the stuffed animal store. Do you want a hug? The mascot stretched out its hand towards us, but Luna scornfully replied, This mascot is so freaking creepy. Afraid of being heard and judged? As impolite, I interjected, Well, but it's pretty cool, don't you think? The Huggy Wuggy mascot is tall, probably a head taller than me. Its fur, though dirty, seems soft. However, its long red mouth, always smiling, gives me real shivers. Don't you want a hug? Suddenly, Luna pulled me towards the mascot for a check-in picture as she said, Then she kept dragging me to the other play areas. After walking a long way, I was pretty curious about the mascot. so I turned back to see it was still in the same position. But the head and eyes were deadly fixed on me and Luna, like it was watching us. Oh, come on, you need to stop watching something creepy on YouTube. Maybe Luna was right. I couldn't let that stupid mascot ruin our day. So that's what I did. I spent a happy evening with my best friend, and we also took a lot of photos. It was already dark when we were about to leave. It's already 7 o'clock. The fair was almost empty, and the stores were ready to pack up. As soon as we reached the gate, Luna suddenly stopped. I need to go to the toilet. We drank too much Coke, so it was understandable. Okay, but hurry up, it's closing. Then Luna went back inside. I pulled out the pictures we took in the afternoon to kill time. 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes passed and still no sign of my friend. I was impatient, so I called her number. The phone rang, but no one answered. Luna is someone who always carries her phone with her, so that worried me. You must be kidding me. Does she forget I was waiting for her at the gate? I called Luna a few more times, but still got no response, so I went back inside to look for her. At this time, only a few traders were packing to leave. There's only one toilet area in here, but Luna wasn't in it. I walked around a bit to look for it, but still, she was nowhere to be found. As my impatience began to flare, I discovered the Huggy Wuggy mascot was still in the same position, but instead, standing still, it was leaning against the store. "Hey, excuse me," I called out loudly, even though the mascot seemed to be heading straight for me. It still didn't move. "Excuse me, have you seen this girl?" I showed it the photo we took earlier, but all I received back is the dead silence. Is this just a costume? Thinking so, I gently pushed it, but as soon as I touched the Huggy Wuggy mascot, its whole body fell to the ground. Then I knew what real terror was. The head of the Huggy Wuggy fell off, rolling around. I couldn't believe it. Inside was no one else but the girl I was looking for. Even though her whole body was wrinkled, I still recognized Luna. Her eyes were rolled back and her neck was full of new deep marks, like she had been squeezed so hard until she died. No one knows what happened. I don't know. Neither do the police. The investigation hit a dead end. All they know is that the Poppy Playtime Company didn't invite that Huggy Wuggy mascot to the spring fair, and the picture I took of Luna. In that picture, the Huggy Wuggy was standing behind my friend. Although the head looked towards me, its eyes glanced straight to the left to look at Luna, and still showed a familiar smile.
For the coffee junkies, it's all about my cousin Wild, who announced that he loved coffee more than anything else in this world, especially Starbucks. He said that 2 cups of coffee a day is a must, or else he can't stand the entire day. I thought that it would be fine at first, until one day, Wild became out of control. That day, I went to Starbucks for an espresso before going to work. There was a long line of people already, so I had no choice but to wait. Well, it looked like everyone was tired on Monday morning. I could tell that based on their grumpy faces. When it was my turn, I asked for an espresso, but before I pulled out my wallet, someone crashed into me so hard I almost fell. It was Wild, my cousin. After not seeing him for a long time, I didn't expect such an awkward encounter.
Hey! Where's my coffee?
Wild raised his voice.
Sir, please wait a moment.
A Starbucks employee named Bruce replied gently.
Bring it to me! Right now!
I was quite surprised to see him acting like that. Wild used to be so gentle and a kind man. This was the first time I had seen him so angry.
At this point, Wild totally lost his patience,
slamming the table, then grabbing the employee's collar. Bruce looked so confused as Wild insisted that his order was ignored. Shelby, the store manager who was notified of the incident, rushed to the counter.
Sir, may I know your concerns?
Wild pointed at Bruce's face and said to the manager,
"This stupid dude forgot my order!"
Bruce shook his head and looked at Shelby. Shelby gently asked Wild,
Sir, what did you order?
"Go and ask your silly staff!"
Wild yelled. Bruce pulled Shelby to a corner. "This man has finished the 7th cup. That's too much."
"Give me the coffee!"
Wild still screamed.
Sir, please calm down. It seems to be a misunderstanding here. Could I invite you into my office?
Shelby politely walked over to the guest.
No, just bring my drink here, right now!
Everything got worse when Wild refused to leave and the customers in line started to get impatient.
"Hey, Wild, stop it!"
I murmured, but he didn't seem to recognize me at all, which was so weird. At that time, another guy in Starbucks uniform walked out with my order. I was about to get the drink, but Wild was faster. He grabbed the hot cup and shoved it in Bruce's face. Bruce screamed in pain, clutching his face, which was now burned by the heat of the coffee. Oh my God! The espresso I ordered was extremely hot. Everyone was shocked. After doing that horrible thing, Wild stood panting with an empty cup in his hand. The manager immediately called 911 while others helped Bruce with first aid. Wild was still angry and kept glaring at Bruce with hatred.
"That stupid rat forgot my order!"
Wild returned to his seat after I dissuaded him, but his displeasure was still evident on his face. Bruce's burns were severe. Shelby allowed him to skip the shift to see the doctor. In the end, Shelby had to offer to compensate Wild. Even so, he still grudgingly took the cup and went back to his seat. The coffee cups were brought out to Wild one by one. He drank each cup in a single gulp, but that wasn't enough.
Bring me more! More!
His eyes quickly turned bloodshot, and he growled at Shelby. No one dared to stop him because he was still holding the porcelain cup in his hand.
More! More! More!
He just laughed and yelled. He kept drinking until they brought him the 10th cup. It didn't matter if it was iced or hot coffee. He just chugged the whole cup right away. It seemed he had lost all taste and sensation.
"I want more coffee! I want more coffee!"
He laughed as he grabbed Shelby, shoving the entire cup of coffee into her mouth. Even though the cup choked her, he still tried to force Shelby to swallow it. She would be suffocated by his damn actions.
"Coffee! Coffee!"
Wild had gone totally insane.
"Wild, stop it!"
I was terrified, rushing to stop him, but he just pushed me away. At this moment, the police promptly appeared to intervene.
"Coffee!"
Even when he got caught, he didn't stop screaming. Wild was taken to the hospital for neurological treatment soon after. The Starbucks store also banned him. Bruce quit his job because of the shock, and I haven't seen him ever since. 1 week later, Wild's condition was improved, and after hearing what happened, Wild didn't recognize himself anymore. As for me, after that incident, I switched to drinking tea instead of coffee, especially chai tea.
Karen arrived home at 3 a.m. The weekend business trip drained all of her energy. Even so, Karen still got up early to make breakfast for Anderson, her fiancé. For her, a sandwich and a morning cup of black coffee was a great compensation for the time away from home. As usual, Anderson was dressed in a neat suit and sat cross-legged in an armchair in the center of the living room. He is handsome, reserved, and has his own rules. Reading the morning newspaper was an example. Regardless of weekdays or Sundays, the first thing he does is always reading the newspaper, especially in recent days when there has appeared more and more missing people in the local area. Is anything new? Karen asked, placing the coffee cup in front of Anderson. Police have confirmed all the missing cases are related. They were all young girls found dead in their 23s. My age range, huh? Karen thought, with a shiver. Anderson, still focused on the newspaper, ignoring her expression, he added, "Oh, and all the murderers have something in common. They lost their teeth. How on earth can there be such sick people?" The cases usually happen around 6 to 7 p.m. when everyone is on the way from work. The last victim was found dead on Sunday, the day Karen was on a business trip. Maybe if Karen wasn't away that day, the victim would be her too. Except for the sick murderer, no one knows for sure. Suddenly, the breath on the back of her neck startled her. Anderson had been standing behind her ever since. He hugged her from behind, kissed her cheek, and greeted her at work. All day, Karen couldn't put the images of poor victims out of her mind. She got home at 5 p.m. earlier than usual. Anderson is far from coming. When she got home, Karen went straight to the bathroom. Bubble bath with Epsom salt for a luxurious evening would erase all her troubles. But today is the exception. Despite being immersed in the warm water, Karen can't help but wonder, but why teeth? In such a chaotic situation like this, you never know when you would be targeted by the perverted killer. That scared Karen. Fear fluttered in her stomach, but at least she had Anderson, a fiancé who would protect her at any cost. Thinking like that, she calmed down a bit to start enjoying the evening. The steam from the tub rose up, making her vision and everything sink into illusion. Half an hour passed, and Karen noticed something was off today. Karen didn't know why, but she began to feel pain and discomfort all over her body. There's something unusual in the bathtub today. Salt grains. It's been so long since Karen put them in the tub, yet they didn't seem to dissolve at all. Instead, they poked at her, stinging. Karen reached down to the bottom of the tub, picking up a few seeds to look at. "Oh my God, a tooth!" She panicked, rushed out and flushed the water. Karen felt like she could throw up. All of them are teeth, jagged, covering the tub. Oh no. In her 23 years of life, Karen has never felt so scared. At that moment, she heard the entrance door open. Anderson is back. At this moment, Anderson's face this morning flashed through her mind. While he was reading the newspaper, he smiled. A strange, vicious smile.
Day of my life.
What an exhausting day.
There was a groan from somewhere outside the store. Lucy cautiously peeked out to see. It was a ragged homeless man. He was staring at the frozen meat counter. His mouth was drooling. His bloodshot eyes were wide open. His hand slid across the glass, which made a creaking sound. Lucy timidly asked,
Sir, how can I help you?
But he didn't say a word, just let out annoying, heavy breathing. Looking at the thin man, Lucy sighed softly.
He must have been starving for a long time.
There was brief news on TV about some apartment break-ins in the area, but Lucy didn't care much because the apartment complex she lived in had the best security. Suddenly, Lucy received a text from her roommate saying that she wouldn't be home and telling Lucy to lock the door carefully.
Never mind. Enjoy the night.
Lucy put the phone down on the table and looked up at the clock on the wall. The shift was finally over. She locked the door to check the goods before the next shift coworker arrived. Holding up a cold piece of meat, Lucy was startled by a strange noise. She turned around to find that the homeless man was still there. He licked his lips and smiled at Lucy, and then he kept banging his head on the front door like crazy. She staggered backward and slumped under the counter while the bangs grew louder until she heard the sound of a key being put into the lock and the door slightly opened. Lucy quickly grabbed a pen from the counter and stood up. The person who just walked in was David, the co-worker on the next shift. "What's wrong?" David saw her panic and felt a little confused.
Didn't you see anyone at the door?
No. Anyway, what the heck is this? Ew, that's disgusting.
David looked at the glass, frowning slightly. Lucy shivered when she saw the stain, but it seemed like he had already left. The clock struck 12 o'clock, so Lucy hurriedly let David take over and quickly went out the door. She comforted herself with the thought that maybe it was just a weird customer at night. Just then on the street, there was almost no one passing by. She walked along the pavement under the yellow, dim lights. Lucy heard the annoying rustle of slippers. She turned her head to squint at every corner of the empty street, but no one was there. So she continued to walk, but after a few steps, she stopped, still hearing footsteps whispering in her ears. She looked back. It was just herself on the road. She walked faster. The rustling appeared again, seemingly speeding up like her. This time it came along with a whistling sound. She could feel her heart pounding in her chest, and sweat soaked her uniform. She kept walking without daring to look back.
It's almost home. I will be fine.
Lucy reassured herself, but couldn't stop her body from shaking uncontrollably. The sound of footsteps running after Lucy became louder and more urgent. She ran up the stairs, but she was so panicked that she tripped. She suppressed the pain, picked up her things, and ran as fast as possible. Finally, Lucy frantically put the key in the lock.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
The man was so close. Footsteps and rattling of the stairs drew nearer. The whistle echoed throughout the dark corridor.
Please, please.
She finally got the key in the lock. She turned the key, rushed into the house, and slammed the door. The man also rushed over at this time, only a split second before he was able to catch Lucy. She closed the door and locked it, then gasped for air, slid to the floor, and began to cry.
"Open the door, you little rat! Open it!"
The man banged on the door and shouted, his hand constantly tugging at the doorknob. Lucy was panic-stricken and stepped back. Suddenly, everything fell silent. Lucy raised her head, trying to crawl up to the peephole to look outside. Suddenly, he jumped out of nowhere to meet Lucy's eyes. Knowing he couldn't do anything here, the man licked the peephole on the door and left. When there was no sound anymore, Lucy shakingly cracked open her door and stared out.
"Hey!"
The pervert pressed his face to the cracked door, so close that his drool splashed on her face. Lucy was frightened and stepped back. The crazy man turned the doorknob like crazy.
"Open the door!"
he shouted as he banged on the door. Lucy was shaking as she dialed the phone.
It's 911. What's your emergency?
Please help. Someone is trying to break into my house.
Hold on. We're on the way.
The man heard what Lucy was saying. He stopped pounding the door and left. Lucy leaned on the door, sobbing, her whole body trembling with such.
This story happened in April, a week before Easter, several years ago. I was 17 years old back then. My parents were away for the weekend, so I invited my best friend Haley to come over for a sleepover. While waiting for Haley, I turned on the TV to pass the time. Suddenly, my dog Max barked at the door. Max was a friendly dog and rarely barked like that, so I was quite surprised. I opened the window curtain to look out. Gosh, there's a man right on the other side of the door. I couldn't see his face clearly because it was dark, but he was wearing dirty clothes and a bunny mascot on his head. His creepy look gave me a shiver. The stranger just stood there, facing the front door. Then, suddenly, he turned his head towards the window. Only then, I realized that he was holding a sharp axe in his hand. Our eyes met. I was so scared that I quickly closed the curtain. Then, the pounding from the man as well as Max's bark got even more fierce. The doorknob was twisted repeatedly, but since I had already locked it, he couldn't do anything but leave. I was still shivering, hugging Max behind the door. Just a few minutes later, I heard a car drive into my block. Luckily, it was Haley. She seemed so calm, so I asked,
"Did you meet anyone on the way home?"
Haley didn't understand what happened and shook her head. When I told her about it, she burst out laughing and said,
"Haha, you're such a coward. Maybe it's some Easter freaks trying to tease you."
Phew, maybe she was right. Haley brought a lot of snacks for the sleepover. We watched movies until late at night before going to bed. Before going to my room, I didn't forget to check the front door. Locked! But as soon as the TV was turned off, Haley turned to me. Shh. I listened. Gosh, the footsteps again. I looked at Haley, and she nodded, indicating she heard the same thing. The footsteps bounced from the back of the house. He's heading to the kitchen door. I trembled.
Oh no. I was going to let Max out for a while and then lock the door. So I forgot. The kitchen door is not locked.
Fast as lightning, the shadow of Bunny's head appeared in the window. And just like that, the knob was turned and the door was wide open.
Run upstairs now! Go, go!
As I was frozen with fear, Haley shouted. I held the phone and carried Max to the bedroom. Haley and the Easter freak were just a few steps away from me. My mind went blank. I dashed into the bedroom. When there was only the last step left, Haley tripped on the last step and fell to the ground. I was about to rush out when she jumped up and yelled,
"Lock the door! I'm going to your parents' room!"
I did as she said, latched the door, and also heard the door close from my parents' room. Trembling, I dialed 911.
It's 911. What's your emergency?
Please help us. There's a murderer.
Then I suppressed my fear and read the home address to the operator. But at that moment, I heard Haley's voiceless scream. Only then did I remember, in this house, only my bedroom door had a lock. I heard an axe hitting the floor and Haley screaming for help and crying and screaming, but my whole body stiffened, unable to move. And then, everything fell into an eerie stillness. I could even hear my heart pounding in my chest.
I'm going to die. I'm going to die. No!
The door to my room suddenly attacked. I accidentally turned on the speaker to hear.
The police will be at your address in a minute. Try to hold out.
The bunny man must have heard it too, because he stopped destroying the door. Then he turned his back and dragged the body of Haley, my poor friend, out of the house and disappeared in the dark.
Even though I was the survivor, I had been traumatized for a long time. and that was why I ended up in a mental hospital.
Good job, Lila. You are now eligible for hospital discharge. If you need anything, just contact us.
No, Lila! No, Lila!
The city that never sleeps is probably just too afraid to close its eyes. The House of Death, a famous brownstone off Fifth Avenue, is reportedly terrorized by a whopping 22 ghosts. Shockingly, it became the crime scene of the latest case. As reported, the victims were a man and a girl, believed to be dad and daughter.
Woohoo! Guys, we found our next destination. Here we go, New York City! Phew! Hello, everyone. It's Ben again. The flight to New York was delayed by 2 hours. Anyways, let me show you House of Death, one of the most famous haunted houses in America. Okay, see you guys inside.
Working as a TikTok streamer is not as fun as I expected. I've created content inspired by haunted places, which was supposed to be viral. However, a few months have passed and my channel still only has 1,000 followers. House of Death, please make me shine. I dragged my suitcase inside the house. My plan is to spend the night here.
Okay, guys, I'm in. As you can see, there's dust everywhere. I guess this place was abandoned for a while. I don't know why, but this place gives me chills.
Then, I headed to a room, which appeared to be a bedroom, to set up the lights for tonight's stream. Jesus, this house isn't as scary as it's described on the TV. In this case, I guess I have to use that trick.
Oh, I guess we've got enough people here. Make sure you turn the light off to get the show started. Right. The most recent case happened 10 years ago, but the news actually covered a part of it. I've asked around, and it turns out before the murder happened, a family used to live here. 3 people, in fact. Yes, the news never mentioned the mother, right? From what I heard from the neighbors, that night, they heard the sound of a man screaming. The father? Yes. And then the little girl. Police searched everywhere, but the mother was never found. And the murder weapon was an ice pick. So sure enough, I think the mother murdered her husband and daughter, then killed herself somewhere.
The comment section started to get lively.
Why? Today, we will find out why she did what she did.
Then, more and more commenting. I thought it was because they were excited, but I was wrong.
Guys, you know I'm not scared of this stuff, right?
Just then, a sudden sound in the doorway startled me. It's like something falling to the floor.
Who's that?
I turned around to see no one, so I left my chair and got to the doorway.
Guys, you won't believe what I just found.
I tremblingly showed them what I had just picked up in the hallway. The ice pick.
Okay, guys, it's time we cleared things up.
While everyone was commenting on the ice pick, I set up my tools on the table.
All you need is paper, 2 candles, a lighter, a needle, and a bit of blood from the person who's communicating with ghosts.
I poked my thumb with a needle and squeezed it to get the blood out. Then, I put 2 straight red dots on the A4 paper. Below each dot, I wrote yes, no in red. Next, place 2 candles on top of the 2 dots and light the fire.
I haven't tried this yet, so I don't know how effective it is. But now we'll start the summoning, shall we?
The number of viewers is increasing, as well as my heart rate is increasing.
Spirit? Spirit? Come here. Spirit? Spirit? Are you here?
The screen is flooded with comments. Is there someone behind? I turned around, but there was no sign of anyone.
You guys almost got me.
I don't pay attention to the comments anymore and continue to summon the ghost.
Spirit? 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 Are you here? Oh my god. Did you see that? The yes candle just flickered. This is really happening.
Okay, I have to stay calm and ask questions.
Spirit? You used to live here, right? Spirit? You're 20 years older, right?
So maybe I'm talking to the murdered daughter. I'll keep asking the question.
Spirit, were you murdered in this house? Guys, I've got goosebumps, but I still have to ask the important question. Spirit, you were murdered by your mother, right? So, yeah, I'm talking to that little girl. Now we're going to find out why the mother did it. But first, Spirit, besides you, is there anyone else in this house? And that is your mother? It's her! She's in this house!
Suddenly, the light flickered like crazy. Jesus, this damn house gave me a stroke of fear. But in return, the number of viewers is higher than ever.
What's wrong with everyone? Stop teasing me! There's no one behind! Okay, I'll go check. Wait for 10 seconds. Don't leave the screen. I got you! So this is a prank as a special gift to 1K followers. Thank you all for supporting me the whole time.
I turned to Jane, who was also laughing. Wow, she's such a shameless makeup witch. Even though I knew it was all fake, her makeup was so scary that I didn't dare look her straight in the eye.
Come on, Ben. You have to get used to this. Don't forget to pay me as you promised.
I couldn't focus on Jane's words. All I notice now is the empty table.
Jane, did you hide the ice pick? I've just left it right here.
Jane looked at me bewildered. Just then, her face turned painful. Blood splashed everywhere. Oh my god! Her eye was stabbed by an ice pick from behind. I have to get out of here, right now!
Receiving calls from viewers of a TikTok streaming video, the police rushed to the crime scene, known as House of Death. All they found is a corpse of a girl. She was stabbed in the eye and died of blood loss. Currently, the TikToker Benjamin is still missing. The police will continue to investigate.
Spirit, is your mother still alive?
People just don't know how obsessed I am with winning. If I have to sit there and face myself and tell myself, you're a failure, I think that is worse. That is almost worse than death. I was inspired by Kobe Bryant since the first day I played, and he was also the reason why I am here today. And that is the end of the speech. Thank you for listening. So, what do you think? Mike stood on the podium, eager to ask for my thoughts on his speech. Without making him wait long, I replied,
Very touching. You are the best.
Even though it's 3 days until the tournament, the principal told Mike to prepare a victory speech because everyone knew that the team superstar Mike would win the school trophy again with his perfect three-pointer. If only we knew that wouldn't happen. Mike, are you okay? Mike! Mike lay still, motionless. I tried to shake Mike up, but his eyes were still closed because of that car accident. Mike was in a coma for several days. The doctor said the accident would not take Mike's life, but would certainly end his basketball career. It's impossible for his leg to recover. And the tournament came. Even though I was still in pain from the accident, I still replaced Mike on the field. I not only fight for him, but also fight for the team, for my school. Kyle! And he made it. He got his first perfect three-pointer. This can't be true. Despite working hard, I never thought I could be as good as Mike. Loudspeakers, cheering fans, but my head is empty. You know, I was not used to this much attention. As if reading my mind, the coach patted me on the shoulder and encouraged, "You have the right to be happy for your first achievement." It's been a month, but Mike still hasn't woken up from the coma. Due to the tight schedule of exams and practice plan, I can't visit him often. And one day I stopped visiting him because, like the coach said, I should spend that time to focus on training myself. By the end of the year, that is 5 months since the accident happened, I've been practicing so hard since there's only 1 week left until the elimination round of the national tournament. It was 9 p.m. and apart from the coach and I, the team had already left. School is about to close. Go get your things and we can go home together. Then, since my stomach was upset, I walked straight to the bathroom and stayed there for more than 30 minutes. "I'm done. Sorry for being late." Before I finished speaking, I suddenly saw a familiar and strange figure. My God, it's Mike. How did he wake up without me knowing? Mike, the guy in a wheelchair, fidgets with the ball and is about to perform a three-pointer shot from the middle of the field. With that posture, I doubted him, but still didn't want to distract Mike, so I gently sat down to watch. Mike gently raised his hand and made a powerful throw. That's a great throw. Just by then, the ball went straight into the basket like everything was programmed. It fell to the ground, but the resounding sound was a bit off, strange, and creepy. I don't know why, but the ball doesn't bounce like a regular basketball anymore. Now that I noticed it, it was a human head. A bald head. God, that's the coach's head. I can't believe what's happening in front of my eyes. Mike, my best friend, murdered the coach? Terror stabbed my heart. I couldn't move even a single finger. Mike seemed to sense my presence ever since because I heard him saying, "Kyle, what about you? Why are you hiding the fact that you're the coach's son?" It can't be. Why does he know that secret? We never said a word about it. How could he know, he said. My naive Kyle. I was not in a coma the whole time. You didn't know that, did you? Just then, I remember sitting next to Mike's bed, talking on the phone with my dad, who's also my coach. Yeah, it worked. He hasn't woken up yet. But, Dad, I didn't know you wanted to take his legs just for this.
The tragic death of Mary Martin, a 17-year-old girl, had caused a media stir. The murderer has yet to be identified. Police are continuing their investigation into...
Max turned off the TV and wiped off the tears on his cheeks. His limbs were still shaking. It was an email from Dr. Finn, which included the address of his clinic. Dr. Finn was his last hope of treating his severe insomnia. Max quickly changed his clothes and headed to the clinic. The clinic was located in a rather old residential area, which was difficult for Max to find. There was no signboard outside, which made him a little suspicious if this was a legal clinic. But it took him a long way here, so he didn't want to go home empty-handed. With the tired appearance of someone who had not slept for a long time, he knocked on the door. Dr. Finn was wearing a stained blouse, emaciated, and his voice was muffled. He invited Max to sit down on the worn sofa, then started to ask about his condition. Max said that he had insomnia and always felt very tired. Finn nodded his head, then handed Max a bottle of pills.
This is the cure.
Max looked at the white bottle without a label. He frowned slightly and his face was filled with skepticism.
Don't worry. I've cured a lot of people.
Finn nodded as he pointed to a photo on the wall in which he stood in the middle. To persuade Max, Finn gave him a 20% discount and one more bottle as a bonus. Max finally agreed to buy the medicine from Finn, then rushed home. That night, Max had a good night of sleep. It had been a long time since he had slept so well. The first week passed well. One night, while Max was sleeping soundly in bed, his whole body felt suddenly so heavy. When he opened his eyes, he saw a black shadow hovering under the ceiling. Max couldn't move, as if his whole body were pressed down by hundreds of tons. That strange shadow suddenly rushed towards him. It was close enough that Max could clearly see its eyes, and its mouth was slightly white. And it was trying to merge with his body. In a second, the shadow got closer and closer. Its legs merged with his legs, then hands. Max kept struggling in horror, but nothing could help him out. The shadow's mouth opened, and there came a high-pitched scream. Startled out of his sleep, he tried to control his breathing, sweat already drenching his body. His limbs were finally able to move again. He must get away from this horrible darkness, but had no strength left.
Police are revealing more clues around the murder of Mary Martin. They are currently locating the suspect and increasing monitoring around the...
Max turned off the TV. Max was exhausted. He looked pale and visibly thinner. His eyes were sunken from lack of sleep, and his hair was messy. But he couldn't reach Dr. Finn. Max had been texting Finn about his situation since last night, but the doctor hadn't responded, and he hadn't picked up the phone either. Looking helplessly at the white bottle on the table, Max's mind went blank. He really needed that medicine. He would die without using it. The next night, he had sleep paralysis again. This time it was even much worse than before. Max heard wheezing in his ears. He even felt liquid drip from the shadow's mouth onto his face. After struggling to regain consciousness, Max took more medicine. While he was drifting off to sleep, he felt his whole body stiffen again. This time, he clearly saw the shadow shaped like a girl wearing a dirty dress. Her neck cut off and throat exposed. Max knew who she was. Mary! 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 Max repeated the name in panic. Mary's ghost moved closer, squeezing Max's neck. Mary's shrill scream rang out. Her mouth opened wide, from which it spewed a slimy mass of fluid and maggots that fell directly into Max's face. Max woke up to find his whole body sweating. He immediately grabbed the medicine bottle from the desk drawer, poured the pills all into his mouth, and frantically drank water to digest them. Soon the bottle went empty. After swallowing all the pills, Max gasped heavily. Suddenly, he felt something wrong. His eyes rolled back. A painful feeling spread through his body, causing him to spasm his muscles. He clutched his throat and felt a hot flash burning his intestines. Max writhed in agony on the cold floor, struggling with a foaming mouth, his breathing even more difficult. After a while, Max stopped moving. He lay curled up, motionless on the floor, with wide white eyes.
A man has been found dead in his own apartment. Remarkably, this man is the boyfriend of the poor Mary Martin and is also the prime suspect in the murder. According to the police, he was paranoid after
I had been close friends for a long time. We shared a lot of things in common, especially hanging out and eating. Until one day, we both agreed that we needed to lose weight for a healthy and perfect body shape. After a while searching, Kira and I discovered a yoga studio commercial that promised to help yoga practitioners get slimmer and stay in shape. That seemed to fit our demand at that time, so we enrolled for both. The yoga teacher, John, was a 30-year-old good-looking man with a toned body.
Yoga can do everything.
Indeed, he was right. After a period of practice, we could feel the change so obviously. Fitter, slimmer, and much more confident. Since I thought a course was enough for me, I decided to quit, but Kira didn't. She grew a big interest with this place. She wanted more challenging yoga poses and often stayed late to practice with Master John. Gradually, I could see her body become very sexy in tight training clothes. She often uploaded yoga poses on Instagram. Lately, Kira had been busy with her yoga classes, so we didn't see each other as often as before, and she couldn't even arrange time for a meal with me. One night, Kira video called to tell me that she was trying the Yoganidrasana, aka yogic sleep pose.
It's a really difficult yoga pose,
Kira said. But I noticed that she looked so different. Something seemed to be wrong. Her eyes were sunken as if she hadn't slept for days. She looked emaciated with many bruises all over her body.
It was yoga.
Mr. John must have forced her to practice a lot for this yogic freaking sleep pose. Then I found out that John asked Kira to practice every day, even though she showed signs of overworking.
Like, he's obsessed with it.
Kira sighed.
If you're too tired, you should take a break from yoga for a while,
I told her.
I can't. I poured a ton of money on it.
But she seemed to give away more than just money. All was for a desirable body, and I could completely understand that. After that, I did not see Kira nor hear from her for a week.
She must be practicing with Mr. John,
I thought.
But she could at least update something on Instagram.
I checked her account and didn't see any new posts other than a photo taken at the yoga studio with John. Another week had passed, and she hadn't even texted or answered my phone. Perhaps she was so obsessed with yoga. So one day, I decided to go to John's yoga studio. I pushed the door open. At this time, the studio had quite a lot of practitioners. I looked around, but I could not see my friend anywhere.
Here you are, sweetie. Want to start over?
It was John.
I'm looking for Kira. She didn't reply to my messages.
After a brief silence, he replied,
Kira is doing yoga in her private room. Do you want to have a look?
I said yes. I was so curious about Kira's training and how much she had progressed in the last few weeks. John took me to a separate room behind the studio outside. He opened the door and I stepped in first. Suddenly, I felt a hand from behind. It covered my mouth with a towel that smelled so strange. After a few seconds, everything slowly faded away. When I woke up, I found myself lying in the middle of a very dark room. There was a horrible smell. As I was trying to get up, I tripped over something and fell forward. The small light hanging in the ceiling suddenly turned on. I blinked several times due to the dazzling light, and when my eyes got to normal, The scene I saw made me scream for fear. It was Kira, but her limbs were twitching and contorting in a weird way. I realized it was the yogic sleep pose, the super hard yoga pose she always told me about. But her whole body was cyanotic and gave off a decaying smell of corpses. I threw up all my breakfast. Suddenly, the door behind me opened. John came in with a baseball bat in his hand and gave me a weird smile.
Have you seen my work? Do you want to achieve what your bestie did? I can help you.
I was panic-stricken. I didn't know what to do, but backed away until I hit the wall. Master John approached me, step by step.
Let me help you have a nice body shape.
I woke up to find my limbs were stuck. I couldn't move. My whole body was in pain as if my bones were broken into hundreds of pieces. I couldn't breathe. With a mouth filled with cloth, I could only cry in despair. And my ex-teacher, John, was standing there taking a burst of photos.
Such a nice pose. Very nice.
The streets are full of scenes like this, though the cause of the pandemic is undefined. The victim seems to transform after being bitten. While the treatment is being made, please stay home and wait for rescue.
Oh my god, it's coming! It's coming! Run! I'm a top student of a famous medical school. I spent most of the time studying with Mr. Drake at a lab. It's a classified project about inventing a new virus that increases human strength and speed. Half a month ago, we almost solved this complicated math problem after 7 years of studying. There it is, this virus that can change the whole humankind. We burst into happiness, but then Mr. Drake and I had another problem. We needed volunteers. Since this was illegal, my teacher paid homeless people to join the experiment. Whatever might happen to them, nobody would care. That's what he thought. Well, speed and strength are increased, but the brain activity is significantly damaged. They're ferocious and can't remember their names. I reported this to Mr. Drake after prototype analysis. He contemplated for a minute and said, "We've got to cancel the project to find the cure." Do you mean all our effort is for nothing? Despite my worries, Mr. Drake did it anyway. In the next 2 weeks, he locked himself in the lab, and when he came back, he had a formula for the cure. We pumped it into those homeless in different concentrations, then observed. However, things didn't follow the plan. Their illness got so worse that they escaped from the lab, except for a man named Eric. No, that can't be! It's supposed to work! My teacher screamed in pain when Eric, the half-human, half-zombie creature riding on the floor. That's it. Our last experiment failed. At that moment, a zombie outside seemed to scent me and Mr. Drake. He slammed into the door and wheezed. Its drooling was so disgusting. I was wide awake, sputtering hurriedly. We must end Eric's life. Release him! Meanwhile, my teacher was too upset to care about anything. I freaked out. I held a sharpened table leg nearby and slowly came to Eric. He seemed to scent danger and get more and more violent. His disfigured face, bloody eyes, and sharp teeth wanted to tear me apart. The table where Drake tied Eric was shaking like it was about to burst. The rope could not hold him for longer, so I needed to hurry. Suddenly, Eric bowed down and did something weird to his arm. Eric? Did the cure work? No, it can't be. Eric, he was biting his arm. The skin and the arm started tearing apart. Pieces of muscle and flesh splattered everywhere. Suddenly, his arm fell down to the floor, and he rushed to me. Under a sudden attack, I could only raise my arms to prevent Eric from attacking. His stinky breath and wheezing breath were so close, just some inches away from my face. I tried to push him, but it didn't work. After the transformation, he had reached the level of strength and speed that humans could not reach. He was closer and closer, and I closed my eyes, nearly giving up. Suddenly, Eric fell down. Mr. Drake gave Eric a shot right to his head. He fell onto me. His brain splattered. His fluid splashed all over my face, and I could even smell it. I pushed Eric aside, got rid of the blood, and stood up. My teacher stood dazedly in the corner. Are you okay? If it were not for him, I would probably end up like zombies. The thick layer of blood stuck to my skin and made it very difficult for me to get rid of it. Thank you, I'm okay. Just as I finished my words, I noticed a small bite on my left arm. My heart jumped. Oh no, Eric bit me while we were fighting? Drake seemed to know what was happening because I saw the changes on his face. No, that can't be. I can't be infected. But then my body went cold. My blood was boiling and I could feel pain all over my body. I saw Mr. Drake step closer. He tried so hard while slowly aiming at me. I'm so sorry. You don't deserve all of this. No, please don't. I want to live.
The authorities have taken things under control. As reported, the cause of the pandemic is from the lab of X University. However, when the defense team came, there was no life found.
The Mayhem Amusement Park had a scary rumor that the Mayhem roller coaster tracks would take you to a mysterious area where you would be stuck forever. That rumor began to spread after many people went missing while riding the roller coaster. This park had to close after only 2 years of operation and became a deserted place. But that was 10 years ago. This summer, the Mayhem Mountain roller coaster would reopen to guests. As true risk-takers, Chris and Joanna couldn't miss this tour to examine the rumor. After 10 years abandoned, everything here was quite old and dilapidated, and the tracks looked a bit ramshackle. Even though it was reopened, it still looked eerily deserted.
Hi, wanna ride a roller coaster?
He had makeup on like a clown with a red nose. He looked so sloppy in that staff uniform.
I'm sure.
Joanna hesitated a bit, even though that was exactly their main purpose when getting there.
Of course, but I have to gather a few more passengers. Can you wait a few minutes? This ride may start later than usual.
How late?
Joanna asked.
About 12 a.m. But don't worry, a roller coaster ride only lasts for 15 minutes.
The clown replied. He seemed very impatient. Joanna looked at Chris, and they both agreed.
All right, just a few minutes waiting.
And then they sat down to wait. But after a while, there were no more guests, and the clown wasn't around.
All right, a little bit less passengers than usual, but enough for today.
The man finally came back. Joanna and Chris looked at each other confused. But the good thing was they didn't have to wait for another day to explore the ride. The clown quickly led them up the stairs and seated them carefully.
Remember to fasten your seatbelt and do
not scream.
The clown repeatedly told them.
Don't scream? What a freak,
Chris mumbled. Joanna didn't notice her friend's words because what bothered her more was the clown's weird glance at them, and his hands were scratching each other harder and harder. Soon after the two people got on the roller coaster, the seatbelts tightened around them stably. Joanna and Chris looked at each other, and before they could say anything, the roller coaster moved. A feeling of euphoria made Joanna shiver. The roller coaster raced at full speed through each rotation, and fortunately, Joanna was able to suppress her screams. As for Chris, he was extremely excited and shouted at the top of his lungs. One round, then two, and three. They soon became dizzy. The train still raced like a beast, ripping through the fog. At this point, Joanna began to notice something strange. Joanna tried to open her eyes to see the clown in the control booth, but there was no one there. She panicked, and Chris also noticed this strange thing. He kept screaming in the hope that someone would hear his cry for help. The roller coaster kept running while they became more and more exhausted. Then, all of a sudden, the glider's screws became loose and began to screw backward. Joanna and Chris grabbed all the nails that fell out from the vehicle. The roller coaster kept accelerating as if it would never stop. At that moment, Joanna saw a familiar figure standing below. And as the roller coaster pulled her closer to that side, Joanna realized in horror it was the clown. He was smiling devilishly. His mouth was wide open with those lifeless eye sockets. He was enjoying their suffering. The vehicle began to wobble more than ever, and they could no longer hold it back. It continued to roll over. Chris's screams tore up the still air. The seatbelt popped out. Joanna and Chris almost fell out, but they still managed to hold on the tramp. Chris's whole body was floating in the air. His hand started to slip away, but he still didn't want to cling to Joanna. Joanna couldn't take it anymore. The roller coaster moved to the final station and began to slow to a stop, and she didn't have the strength to do anything else. At this moment, the clown walked up to Joanna. Next to him were 3 fierce dogs. Joanna could clearly see drools running down their sharp teeth.
It's all my fault. I shouldn't have let you make that stupid video. Ryan, please forgive me. No, are you crazy?
Maddie knew Ryan always came up with bizarre ideas, but she never thought it would go this far. Come on, Maddie, let's make that video together. Mr. Beast did it too, and look how many views he got. 150 million! While saying that, Ryan pointed at the screen. Maddie didn't know what to say because she was pretty convinced. Ryan and Maddie are best friends. After finishing high school, they dropped out of college to do YouTube together. Ryan, who has a good look, is the one who would love to be on the screen. However, Maddie is the content creator and also his manager. Maddie sighed, feeling she was about to lose this argument.
Suppose I say yes. Then where do we shoot?
Ryan got so happy hearing that. I know the place. My buddy, please say yes. And his look made her fall completely.
Okay, then let's make a plan.
Ryan was overjoyed. He said cheerfully, as long as there are no spiders, I'll be fine. Then, Ryan left, leaving Maddie with a bunch of paperworks. Looks like Ryan is going out on a date with a girl he just met on Tinder a few weeks ago, Maddie thought. And finally, that day has come. Ryan is the boldest man, Maddie has to admit. Since Ryan wanted to make it as creepy as possible, he decided to take on the challenge at an abandoned cemetery. Although Maddie doesn't believe in ghosts and spirits, this place really gives her shivers. Just like what Mr. Beast did, Maddie and Ryan rented a large glass coffin. Then they hired a crane driver to slowly place it underground. The AC connected directly to the coffin will help Ryan breathe.
Okay, get in.
Maddie told Ryan while having a quick look around to make sure he has enough snacks, water, and bottles to clean. Ryan ducked inside. God, only he has the guts to do this. If it was Maddie, just being in such a narrow space would literally drive her crazy. Hello guys, 24-hour buried alive challenge. Start! Then, Ryan excitedly said to Maddie, who was standing dumbfounded at the top, "Buried me alive, Maddie!" Then Maddie started turning on the camera. The thick layer of soil was slowly brought down, soon covering the surface of the coffin. When everything was done, it was already dark.
Can you hear me, Ryan?
Maddie spoke into the radio, checking the signal underground. But Maddie didn't hear anything from Ryan. Then she began to worry.
Ryan, answer me!
Just then, he hastily replied, Here, I've just peed a bit. What a mess down here." Maddie told him to keep an eye on the camera.
Don't worry. See you soon.
As it started to rain, Maddie got into the car and lay down to rest. Fatigue quickly hit her, and she slowly fell asleep.
Hello guys, it's been 2 hours and I want to show you this. Can you see that? God, there's so many disturbing animals down here. Since I saw it, you guys will have to see it too. Looks like I just saw something.
When Maddie woke up, it was already dawn. She turned on the walkie-talkie to talk to Ryan so he wouldn't be sad.
Ryan, in case you didn't know, it's already morning.
Maybe he's still sleeping, she thought.
Jesus, you take the challenge to sleep all the time?
Then, Maddie threw the radio away and started her morning. About an hour later, Maddie finished eating an apple and a few sandwiches. At this time, the sun was also shining overhead.
Maybe Ryan's awake by now.
She checked Ryan through the radio again.
Ryan, shouldn't you wake up now?
No one answered.
Ryan, stop your stupid prank.
Still no response. God, could it be? Maddie rushed to the AC area where Ryan's oxygen was provided. The machine is still operating normally. She was relieved, but still worried.
Ryan, if you don't answer, I will dig you up immediately and the challenge will end.
1 minute. 2 minutes passed. Still nothing happened. It's like Maddie's sitting on fire, and she called the crane and asked to dig the coffin up. It had been raining, so plowing the ground was much more difficult. It took half an hour for the lid of the coffin to gradually reveal itself. God, Ryan was curled up in a coffin. His whole body stiffened. His eyes rolled back and his mouth twitched. Ryan is in a state of extreme fear, and if Maddie's not mistaken, he may not be alive anymore.
Ryan! No!
After that, Maddie fainted and didn't know what else to do. According to what she heard, the crane man called the police. According to the investigation, maybe in the middle of the night, Ryan had a panic attack, combined with the narrow space which led to this tragic death. Before panicking, police found another video. For you. You're so sorry for your sufferings. In the video is Ryan with an eager look on his face saying,
Maddie, because I don't have the courage to speak to you directly, I will say it now. Now you see it, you must be editing videos. Maddie, I love you. I know I keep you busy by disappearing a lot these days. But actually I prepared a vacation for you and me. If you don't mind, please be my girlfriend. So? Maddie's heart clenched. If only she knew Ryan's feelings in advance. If only he had told her frankly before taking on this stupid challenge. If only she hadn't let the spider in because she was so frustrated. Things would have been different.
I work part-time in a local pizza shop as a delivery guy. It was Saturday night. My colleague had an unexpected break, so my boss asked me to cover his shift. Around 11 p.m., I got an order to the house on the side of the forest. This place is literally out of nowhere that doesn't even show up on GPS. Well, it took me 45 minutes to get there. It was a rustic wooden house. Dang it! I took the pizza to the porch and rang the doorbell. I waited for a while, but no one appeared. So I rang the bell again. When I was about to call my boss to cancel the order, I heard footsteps in the house and the door opened. A well-dressed man stepped out. He just stood there, saying nothing, staring dead at me. Sorry for the late delivery. Anyway, here's your pizza. You don't need to tip me. He just stood for a moment, then flashed a weird smile. Okay, thanks for the pizza. Would you like to come in for the birthday party? I didn't want to come in and was about to refuse, but he continued. My daughter's party. Being bullied, no one came. Hey, if you feel uncomfortable, I totally get it. Poor this girl. I was in the same situation before, so I understood that feeling. I agreed to join the party. I followed the man into the kitchen. The house is so old that I can hear the wood floor creaking with every step. In the middle of the kitchen is a large dining table placed in the middle of the room. I was looking around. Suddenly a voice shouted from behind, startling me. Happy birthday! Seeing my cut face without a drop of blood, he seemed apologetic, joking. Sit here and wait. I'll go call her. 5 minutes, 10 minutes passed by. No one showed up. I walked around the dining to discover that there was a door in the corner of the kitchen. Being curious, I peered in. Oh my God! I saw someone in that 10 square meter room. Although I couldn't see his face clearly, I recognized the uniform. It was a pizza uniform, exactly like the one I was wearing. He was strapped to a chair and almost motionless. What's happening? I called out, Hello? Are you okay? At this moment, the man slowly raised his head. His mouth was glued. He made gurgling sounds. I froze. It was Jack, the colleague that was supposed to cover this shift. I noticed his pant leg was crushed. Blood from there was still dripping onto the floor. I have to help Jack. We have to get out of here right now. But then I passed out. When I woke up, it was already dawn. The rain outside has also stopped. Happy birthday music resounded throughout the room. In front of me was a lot of food. The man was chopping something on the cutting board. My body went numb. The pain ramped up. Jack, where's Jack? Why did you do that to him? At this point, the man didn't move, but his head slowly turned back. He calmly smiled and said, You did nothing wrong. I just have a different taste in food. This time, I felt the pain in my knee hurt. Burning. So bad.
I'm Skylar, and I'm an orphan. So is Nick.
We spent the first 18 years of our lives in a dilapidated foster care, and kids there were treated poorly. As soon as we turned 18, we were kicked out, and from then on, we lived on the streets.
Skylar, I found a place. It's a luxury restaurant called King of Mukbang. Let's just go there, and for sure, we'll have very good food.
Nick is skinny, but he can eat tons of food at once.
Whenever given a box of rice or several servings of McDonald's fried chicken, Nick always finished them all in a blink. Anyway, it's been raining for the past few days and we have nothing to eat, so I agreed to go with him. Like Nick said, King of Mukbang is a luxury restaurant. And there they are. Even the trash cans of the rich show an unusually clean appearance.
Here's yours. We need to eat fast before someone notices us and drives us away.
Nick hands me a bag of meat leftovers and keeps a bag of greens, mostly avocados and mangoes. Like a long-starved animal, Nick shoved his face into the garbage and chewed voraciously. Perhaps because we were so focused on eating, we didn't realize we were being watched.
Well, 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 look who I found.
Nick and I both jumped when hearing the voice. Turns out it was a gentleman, dressed in a luxurious suit.
He must be someone from that restaurant.
I thought. While Nick and I remained silent, he gave us his visiting card and introduced himself.
Well, just call me Alex. Sorry, I didn't mean to bother you, but you're such a talent.
He stared at Nick and said, as written in the card, Mr. Alex is the headhunter of a large entertainment company, specializing in finding talent for his huge YouTube channel Eco Network. Nick was originally a shy, reserved person. He looked at the card and reluctantly asked the man,
"What do you want?"
And this is how it all started. Mr. Alex invited Nick to film something about eating and drinking and promised to make him a star.
You heard it right. You won't have to do anything. Just eat. I'll pay you well. And besides, you'll have a nice shelter and nice clothes.
Nick thought about it for a while. After all, he said yes under one condition. The man has to give me the same treats. At first, he agreed to give me the money too. I didn't need to go to school to know that making money can't be that easy.
Nick, don't listen to him. I feel like he's not a good person.
Nick knows we can't trust people, but this time, he insists.
So what? At least you and I don't have to eat the trash.
Then, he walked away with the man named Alex. If only Nick could see the monstrous smile on that man's face before he left. Mr. Alex has brought me money like he promised. I don't know how much money Nick made, but a month later, I had an apartment to stay in. I even had enough money to buy a laptop and an old phone. At first, Nick and I couldn't meet in person, but we still talked on the phone.
You know what? I've never eaten that much food in my life. I'll send you the link to watch me on YouTube.
I clicked on the link. Then, on the screen appeared about a dozen videos of Nick sitting in front of a mountain of food. All are fast food, spicy noodles, and sweets.
I thought you only ate things like vegetables and fruits.
In response, Nick said,
Yeah, but audiences don't want to see boring stuff like that. Besides, fast food is delicious as well.
After a few months, Nick appeared more regularly on YouTube with the new title,
The New King of Mukbang!
Gradually, he changed so drastically that I no longer recognized him. My old Nick was calm and gentle, but this one is so rude, not mentioning he gained tons of weight.
Oh my god, how come Nick turns into this person? What happened to him?
As more and more videos are uploaded, less phone calls are made. Until one day, it's impossible for me to reach him. It's been a week since the last time we talked, so I am extremely worried. Since Alex refused to say a word, I decided to follow him. The plan worked. I was led to a large warehouse. I came in to see many small rooms, all of which are dark. However, there was still one room that had the light on. It was the same room Alex had just entered. I moved as quietly as possible and sneaked a peek inside. The things I saw in that room make me shiver every time I think about it. There was a man wearing a red shirt that I didn't even recognize. That man was so overweight that I can't imagine how he could walk. He was tied to a large iron rod. Blood and brown liquid was all over his body.
Let me go! Let me go! You cannot do this to people!
Just then, Alex appeared. In his hand were a lot of pills. He put the whole bunch in that man's mouth and forced him to swallow them all. Only then, when I could look closely at the details of the face, I realized it was Nick. Although his face was much different from before, those eyes, lips were unmistakable.
For God's sake, take these pills! You have another video to shoot in 2 hours.
Nick threw up both in the mouth and in his bottom. He struggled, howling in the slime and smelling terrible. I was trembling inside. My hand shook so hard that I could barely hold the phone. But still, I tried to record the scene because I know no one would believe me without the proof. Just then, Alex spotted my presence.
I don't clearly remember what happened after that. I ran like crazy and somehow I magically escaped from that warehouse. Of course, I reported it to the police. But even with the evidence I had, they still wouldn't believe me because I was just homeless after all. But you guys can. I believe that. And here's the video I took that day. Please bring justice back to Nick.
Please, let me go. If you don't shoot that video, you and that girl will be back to your garbage.
And I work at an old gas station in the suburb. That place is quite empty and has only a few visitors come by. I work the night shift with a girl called Laura. One night I went to work as usual, but that night I witnessed a terrifying incident that I would never forget.
Hey, take this outside and stick it on the board for me.
Laura stood at the cashier, and as soon as she saw me, she handed me a new price tag. Gasoline price has increased again. Just last week, it was only $2 a gallon. Now it's $5. Laura complained that this old damn gas station had already been solitude enough, and now thanks to the price increase, it will be closed soon. Calm down, it's the same everywhere now, I comforted her. The black SUV stopped at the station. Then a tall man with fierce eyes got out of the car. He was dressed sloppily, looked a little dirty and messy with loose hair, and looked like a tramp. He looked so poor, how could he afford an SUV? That was odd.
Fill up the gas tank,
he said, reaching into his pocket to pull out some change. He looked up at the price tag and then at the crumpled bundle of money in his hand, noticing that he didn't have enough money. These coins weren't even enough for a gallon.
Damn it,
he growled, and turned back in the car and rummaged around. Then he turned to me again.
Pay you later,
he said, and went inside the store. My dream car. I loved the black SUV, wishing I could touch it once, and so I put out my hand.
Hey, what the heck are you doing?
The man shouted with a glaring face and rushed to push me away. I'm sorry. I bowed my head. At this moment, gasoline in the tank began to overflow, splattering on the ground. I could even smell it. Sir, you forgot to pay! I rushed to the front of the car, but the man didn't listen. He still started it. I had no choice but to poke my head inside the car to stop him. Gosh, something wafted up that got me dizzy. The car was filled with black plastic bags and messy clothes. He braked the car, angrily pushed the door, causing me to fall. He jumped out and kicked me in the dust. I writhed in pain and dodged.
You bastard! Do you want to die?
After hitting me, he grabbed my collar. "Sir!" I stammered, trembling.
God damn it, do I have to kill you too?
He screamed, his eyes bloodshot and ferocious, his mouth wide open menacingly. Fortunately, Laura ran to us, threatened to call the police, only to make him let go of me. He was still driving furiously, and yet didn't pay a dime for the gasoline.
Are you okay?
Laura worriedly helped me up. My whole body was dirty. My clothes were rumpled. My hands and feet were shaking. Laura quickly comforted me and told me to go inside and change my clothes. I stood up, but still not fully recovered from fear. While raising my eyes to watch the car go away, I noticed something laying on the road, apparently from the other man's car. I narrowed my eyes and stepped closer.
Ah!
I screamed in horror when I discovered that it was a severed arm. Gosh, that arm was pale. The cut was still bloody with a little white bone. I was so scared that I fell to the ground. Laura heard the scream and ran over, saw the thing on the ground, and threw up right at the place. From the distance came the signal of the car. Thought it was the man coming back. I immediately pulled Laura into the store and tried to lock the door. The car came, slowly stopped outside the gas station. I looked up daringly, peeking through the window. The fierce man from earlier came back. He stopped the car right near the severed arm, got out, looked around, then picked up the hand and put it in the trunk. Then he suddenly returned to the shop, which made me stiff. Laura hastily pulled me down to hide. I could hear his footsteps approaching. The door-knocking sound scared us to death, but we still had to cover our mouths to stop ourselves from making a sound while the door was about to burst open.
I will find you, gas station bastard!
He growled to threaten us. I heard footsteps, followed by the sound of a car engine fading away. After the man had actually left, Laura decided to dial 911. Based on our testimony and the camera footage, the police identified a man named Eric. After killing his girlfriend, he sawed up her body and threw the body parts and her belongings in the trunk to dump them away. No one suspected him on the way until he drove past the gas station and dropped the arm from his trunk.
I will find you!